International Horseshoe there, turn 3. Fast kink in turn 4. That's where we just saw Josh roll off. But, if there's anybody that can control that, it's going to be him. As they come up onto the banking out of turn 6, a long run down to the chicane. A little bit different chicane than we've seen in the past, only because of the curbings. And then from turn 10 all the way back to the trial, well, that famous run all the way back there that has won or lost a bunch of races in the past.
All right, so this second qualifying, this was just on the outlap, and you see Josh Herrin, the Ducati right there. He's just trying to get the bike slowed down a little bit, and it didn't look like it was helping out on the Celtic Economy Lube Plus Tire Warhorse HSBK Ducati.
That's that kink that I was just talking about that's very, very fast, and the win today would be to your inside, where yesterday it was pushing you into that kink. Today, on his very first lap out, it's actually going to be under the bike going that way. So maybe he just caught a little bit of a gust, and you can see he's back up and running again. No sweat for Josh Herrin. He's already running. I believe that's Peter Hickman that has just jumped in behind him as they come across the trial. Well, you're going to have 5-6 bikes, and you can expect a quick lap time first thing this morning. When you have this big of a group of riders, this is a lot of like what you will see at the beginning of the 200 tomorrow as Herrin goes up the inside of Brandon Posh. Brandon just stood the bike up for a second, and he kind of gets shuffled back ever so slightly. But this is what you'll see at the beginning of the 200 tomorrow. A bunch of riders in this lead group. You see the True Love brothers there. I believe that's those two guys. We'll have a look at their bikes today as well, Greg, on the banking. If you remember yesterday, our telecast, both Harry yesterday and his brother, their bikes were moving around an awful lot on that banking. So Matt and Harry hopefully will have a little easier ride up there today.
Yeah, and it looks like perfect weather out as we welcome Jamie Howe to the mix. How's it going?
Yes, good morning. It's a beautiful day down here, and not nearly as windy as what we had yesterday. If you remember, a lot of the riders were talking about that as they came off of the racetrack, just really being able to feel the effects of the strong gusts that were blowing around here, especially in the infield sections. But that headwind that we had, that's completely gone. Winds down to about 2 miles an hour, so riders certainly won't be affected by that. But the temperature is the other big thing. In the practice session yesterday morning, the track was just so cold. There was really not a lot that could translate into the afternoon session. Not the case this time around. This morning the racetrack's got plenty of heat in it. It certainly started to evolve, as Dunlop has put it, so I expect some better times here in the second qualifying session.
Yeah, we're looking to too, Jay. I think we're always going to have an eye on the records that were set. 140.047 by Ty Scott last year was the mark. But now it's just kind of rehearsal, right? They're in qualifying. What we expect to see, Jay, in this 30-minute session in terms of tire strategy and speed strategy?
Well, one of the things I can see right now, that's Gus Rodeo and Joe Lamondre Jr. You see Joe there. Great to see him down here as they're both able to draft up alongside Escalante as they come across. Those are two young men that you're going to see play a part in this race also over the course of the weekend. But, Greg, for this qualifying session, I expect to see what we're seeing right now. Everybody kind of got out there together. Everybody's wanting to see what everybody's doing. 49.5 for Josh Herrin literally right out of the bat. The guy runs off the track on his outlap. On his first flyer, he goes 49.5. The worry, Greg, is going to be seeing that Ducati just disappear like he is right now. All these guys that are all kind of grouped together, they're seeing him roll away. Danny Webb, good to see him put himself into second. Very seasoned as well. Moto3 world champ. Then you got Ty Scott, Richard Cooper, Richie Escalante right now in that top 5. So Danny Webb yesterday, first time here. Gets out there on that Suzuki GSX-R 750, Greg, and had a day under his belt, put his head on the pillow last night, probably thinking about all the places he could maybe improve a little bit, and he finds himself right now second in the running.
So this is the front group we're watching in qualifying. This is not a race.
Yes.
This is what happens in the 200. And one person I want to make note of is Josh Herrin is kind of leading this group. He's pushing in his own air at a 149.5. But Richard Cooper on the 147. I had a conversation with him. He, of course, Richard Cooper on that PHR Performance Triumph. His teammate is Peter Hickman. And I asked him, are you guys going to team up and try to draft and pass? And he said, you know what? With my teammate, it doesn't work, Jay. He goes, because Peter Hickman is better in the infield.
Okay.
And Cooper obviously is smaller and can draft Hickman, who's larger, and makes it. So what's happening is as Cooper goes around him on the banking, he's holding up his teammate Hickman through the infield.
Yep.
And so he said, we can't ride together.
Amazing.
Even though we'd like to, the difference in size and ability to go through the infield is holding us back.
Then you kind of wonder if Peter goes and looks for another Triumph out there at the same time. You can see they're all coming across the line together right now. And look, this is everybody just testing everybody. So Escalante goes to the front now, Greg, at a 49.1. Remind me again what the best lap time is.
48.9 yesterday.
48.9 qualifying yesterday, and overall, I think 48.0 we saw last year from Ty Scott, 48.0. Race lap last year was a 48.6 from Escalante, but Escalante, Herrin, Ty Scott, Richard Cooper now fourth, and how about Joe Lamondre? Joe Lamondre is a little bit of a sleeper. He ended up 7th overall yesterday. Speaking with Joe a little bit during the offseason, he came down here in October with his team, and you can see him. He's just behind all this group right now. He's going to be more than capable of running with all of these guys. So Escalante sits up, and yeah, you can see True Love just kind of giving him a little bit of emotion there.
Let's welcome another member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa, with more.
Thanks, Greg. As Jason mentioned, Joe Lamondre Jr. did come down here in October for the club race just to kind of shake things down and get prepared for this race weekend. Here he's making his Daytona 200 debut. It's his first ever time. He did win that race in October. He made his Supersport debut in New Jersey last September, so this is really only his second official MotoAmerica sanctioned race on the Supersport machine. He's getting really comfortable. You know, he's ridden around all of these top riders for years. He's really comfortable in the draft. They've been practicing their pit stops. He was P8 yesterday, so he's confident he can build on that for today and put himself in a good position for the race.
You know, Hannah, that you say that. The thing is that for Joe right now, being able to run around Escalante, being able to run around Ty Scott, Joe's a kid that should be in our series full time. Let's not make any mistake about that. He's a kid that we've seen do well in some of our smaller classes, but for him to be on a Supersport bike and really get an opportunity to run side by side, it's going to give him a ton of confidence, Greg. And I know you've seen that over the years with younger riders through all your commentating. You've seen these kids come through the ranks. Joe's kind of one of those kids this year, as well as Gus Rodeo. Gus Rodeo is right on the back of that group that's with Joe Lamondre, Ty Scott, Richie Escalante, one of the True Loves. So the thing is it gives a rider, a young man like those two guys, a lot of encouragement. You see Rich Cooper on the back of Herrin right now. So somebody running straight.
That's 99.
That's a
is that
999.
999.
So yeah, we'll have to look that one up.
That's Danny Webb.
That is Danny Webb. I thought it was Danny Webb. So he's got kind of shuffled back to 8th at the moment. 49.1 is what we're looking at so far. I mean, Greg, those are 2 or 3 laps in.
There's Peter Hickman coming across, and they were able to get to the Dunlop test that was in Savannah at Roebling Road Raceway a couple of days ago, and got to test the tire choice that Dunlop has. Of course, a lot of things happening with Dunlop tires in the offseason here in the United States. The factory in Buffalo closing down for a global tire strategy, and so the front tires that these competitors are using, Jay, is a new construction from Japan, actually, Dunlop Japan. A lot of riders really liking the different construction feel that it gives you a little bit more of a compliant feel when you're going through the corner, a little bit different feel when you're trail braking into the corners. So there's been such positive feedback from Dunlop here in the United States with the new Japanese front tire.
You get the feeling watching this that Herrin's just still out there kind of sizing people up. It looks very easy for Josh to me. He's coming in the pits now.
He's coming in the pits. I think that Josh, you know, one of the things that you and I talk about off camera as part of the success of why he's won 2 in a row is that the number 2 is one of the best riders out there on the out lap. Like after you come in for your pit stop and you get that first lap going,
that's right.
It's pretty incredible. Let's get down to Jamie.
And as Josh Herrin now approaches the team on pit lane, we're going to see the same thing that we saw yesterday during the qualifying session. This Warhorse HSBK racing team taking the opportunity to also practice their pit stops. Going to be a pivotal part of the race tomorrow. 2 pit stops expected here for the Daytona 200, different from every other round of competition. But in terms of changes overnight, we saw Josh go out and immediately be able to put down some pretty solid lap times, and the bike almost identical to what they rolled off of the racetrack with yesterday. Really just some ergonomic changes. Josh wasn't as comfortable on the banking as what he would have liked, so some seat positioning changes, and it's like a little bit of a miscue getting Josh back out onto the racetrack, but pushed away and he can go back out and continue qualifying.
Yeah, but that's a perfect example of why you practice that, because, right, Jay, it's not just the pit crew. It was a procedural thing for Josh to be able to get that bike started again.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that's where you got to keep your cool. You got to make sure everything's fine, but to not see that bike fire right up, there's right now people down there probably thinking, okay, what do you think that was? Why didn't it just fire right up? And those are the kind of things that happen in the 200. So we'll see how that goes. And
yeah, in the long term, you have to say that was actually a really good mistake to happen right now in practice. Now, what we didn't see was actually them putting fuel in. So one of the notes, if you watch the Daytona 200 from last year, there's a change in regulation in pit lane. We're now aligned with World Endurance. Of course, Jason Pridmore, who I'm commentating with, two-time world champion in World Endurance. But one of the differences is that when they fuel, nobody can be touching the bike. So explain that a little bit.
Well, the thing is that now they've mandated it to where when you come in, the fueling has to be done separately to everything else. So in the past, when a bike has come into the pit lane, you've seen a group of 5 or 6 people jump over the wall, start changing tires, doing fuel. Now, Greg, you got to come into the pits, get the tires changed, and do all that. Then everybody backs away after that happens. Then the fuel man comes in, dumps that fuel into the tank. So it's a separate entity now, is dumping the fuel from everything else. So that is exactly what you're seeing. See a bunch of riders now kind of sitting up looking for a tow. The 2 teammates here in Escalante and Ty Scott. Ty Scott goes to the front, Greg, at a 49 flat.
Yep.
So just a little tick off of where he was yesterday. So 49.0 with Richie Escalante right behind him at a 49.1. So Richie didn't run that time on his last lap. Ty Scott did. Here's the True Love brothers. They're in the pits together. Now, kind of wondering yesterday, Greg, when you start to look at it, when you start to look at some of the problems that they had on the banking yesterday, the problem is to run along the banking for, 48 laps. To do that lap after lap would be a lot of work. So it could be something even as little as tire pressure, something like that they can adjust to make it to where those bikes will be a little bit more comfortable for these guys up on the bank.
Another thing that the True Love brothers are attempting to do a little bit better today is stay together out there on the racetrack. That was really where they struggled in trying to get a better lap time, was they didn't have anybody to draft with. That was their plan coming in, was they were going to stick together and work it out. But for Harry, he came into pit lane. Matt was nowhere in sight yesterday, and he said, my brother's just faster right now. I've got to be able to catch up to him and stay with him if I'm going to be able to draft with him and work with him. So that's what they're trying to work through here in the second qualifying session.
It actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, can you imagine if Jeff White was faster than me? Anyway, regardless of that, Ty Scott at a 49 flat on top with Richie Escalante 49.1. Keep in mind, the benchmark time so far this weekend is set by Ty Scott from qualifier number 1 at a 48.962. We also have that time attack that's going to happen later on today. So we're talking about provisional pole right now still for Ty Scott. Josh Herron a 49 flat yesterday to a 49.3 so far today. Here's
a great look at Michael Dunlop coming down pits. So the winningest rider, Greg, now at the Isle of Man TT. What a pleasure it is to see him here. He's on a Ducati, obviously, here at the Daytona 200. And it'll be interesting to see how he gets rolling on this bike. 14th currently, 51.1. So he's improved from yesterday quite a bit. The position's right around the same as where he was yesterday in that general area. But he's definitely gone quicker. Now look at Herron. He's out there on his own, Greg, just doing his own thing by himself. Let's see what this lap is. He comes across the line, pushing his own wind. He's going to come across at a 48.8, which is the fastest lap we've seen on the weekend. Now, this is the thing that is really discouraging for a lot of people in the sense that he's able to go out and run these 48s with nobody in front of him. Watching a little bit of a highlight from yesterday, Greg, 2 laps from the end of the race last year, he went 48.6, and that was with a big lead. So he's just super comfortable being able to run around in these lap times. As you see Ty Scott now talking with his crew about things that they might like to see, or he would like to see maybe a little bit different or changed. But man, that's a big warning sign thrown out from that Ducati rider Josh Herron right now at 48.8. Hannah.
You can see both of the M4 XR Suzuki riders in the pits practicing pit stops. A pretty good one for Ty Scott. You know, something I wanted to point out is that M4 has never captured the Daytona 200 title. Could this year be their best chance yet? Last year we saw Ty Scott finish second. Provisional pole yesterday, looking to make it permanent for the start of the race this weekend. Richie Escalante, some bad luck the last couple of years. You know, 2 years ago got taken out by another rider, and then last year running out of fuel on that last lap, nursing it across the line in 4th. So a 2nd and a 4th, 2 top 5 finishes. Really close, but not quite there yet. I think this year could be the year that we could potentially see an M4 bike stand on top of that Daytona 200 podium, guys.
Yeah, and you know, Hannah, I spoke with Richie Escalante this morning, and we talked about Daytona 200 strategy for him. And he actually, instead of talking about race strategy, he said, look, I actually have a day-to-day strategy, because what's happened to me in the past is I go out there the first day, and I'm absolutely blazingly fast in the first session. Then we get to qualifying, and I'm like 8th, I'm like 7th. He goes, so The strategy this weekend, Jay, was just to build slowly each session, each day, instead of trying to be the fastest person on the racetrack right out of the box. And so Escalante right now sitting at a 49.1 and third in the pits currently, but he's third on our timing and scoring sheets. He was third yesterday in qualifying 2 at a 49.4, so he's a little quicker, but that's part of the plan, just incremental changes. But the question is for the number 2, Josh Herrin, on the Celtic Economy Lube Plus Tire Warhouse HSBK Racing Ducati Panigale V2. The question is he going to ride all by himself, or is this that strategy going through the chicane? We talked about kind of the new, the new chicane, I guess you could say, with the curbing. But what's Josh Herrin going to do late in this session? Is he going to be able to start riding around people, get a draft and pass?
Well, he's on a bit of a run right now, as you can tell, Greg, and you can see also that the fact that half the field, or most of the field, is in pit lane right now. Just about everybody is. So he's got the track all to himself. As we see a few riders now, you look on our graphic there, the yellow there means those guys are in the pits. Just now, there was only Herrin and Ty Scott out on the racetrack together. So now you're going to start to see this pack going out again. This kind of makes me wonder if Josh is on a little bit of a longer run right now, testing things out, riding around by himself, just getting used to what it's going to feel like if he is able to break the field like we've seen him do last year. And Escalante in a big hurry right now to get out with this group of riders just in front of him. And but Herrin doing these times alone. 49.1 is only 0.3 off of his best that he did by himself. I didn't see them change tires when he came in just now either. So he started on a set of tires, had done 3-4 laps on those, came in, had a talk with his crew, went right back out on the same tires. There's Gus Rodeo, who we've seen win in Twins Cup, Junior Cup, there right in the middle of your screen.
The other thing other thing to note that we haven't really talked a lot about is there have been some rule changes in next generation MotoAmerica Supersport class, which is what this class is based off of. And one of those changes is, as you look at the GSXR 750 on this Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki, is they're allowed linkage changes now where they weren't last year, and they're allowed offset changes for triple clamps change. So what you're doing is you've moved from last year to this year, as basic as I can put it, is more to the expanded adjustability of a superbike. The super sports move closer in that direction. So for Josh Herrin and his team, they're actually trying a lot of different things. And I talked to Simone, the crew chief, and he was like, we have actually tried some things that worked on a Josh's superbike that we've now said, okay, it works, but it's not great. So people are like, well, Josh came out here, Herrin, and he won the 200 last year. It's the same motorcycle, but are they doing the exact same thing? No. And in talking to Ty Scott and Richie Escalante, they're actually setting the bikes up differently. Escalante didn't want the triple clamps up front. He's running the stock triple clamps that come with the motorcycle off the showroom floor. Ty Scott's running the aftermarket adjustable ones, the actual when they talk about the swing arm and the combination of the swing arm getting to the shock, they're both running the same thing. So there's a variety of new things in adjustability that riders are working on as well. It's not just roll the 200 bike out from last year because the rules haven't changed. They've changed in a very subtle way, but in a very dramatic way.
Well, and I said earlier 48 laps. It's actually 57 laps, so thanks for correcting me on that. And for those 57 laps, Greg, what's the one thing you want? You want comfort. You want to be able to go out there and do these 57 laps as easy as you possibly can. Make the bike as rideable as you possibly can. And for the extra little bit of adjustments that you can make, that's what's going to help these guys. Now, watching Ty Scott, he's out there doing the exact same thing as Herrin right now, pushing his own win, 49.3 that last time by for the number 70 of Ty Scott as he comes up onto that west banking, Greg, and you can see running it down a little bit lower. He's going to have a little bit of a headwind here today. It's very small. It's obviously it's not blowing anywhere near where it was yesterday. You heard Jamie in her report earlier say it's a slight breeze, but nothing like yesterday as Herrin is now in pit lane. Let's see what Ty Scott's able to put together this lap. He's showing that he can run around in the low 49s. See if Herrin gets, Herrin's in the high 48s.
Another element that the teams are able to adjust on the fly is their tire selection, and Dunlop's given them 3 different choices, and that's really what Ty Scott is working through this morning. When the 2 sessions yesterday, both practice and Q1, what the team determined was that there was one particular tire combination that they just couldn't get to work. They couldn't get the speed out of it. Ty came in after just 2 laps on it and said, this one's not going to work. They went in this morning with the strategy of going through the different tire choices, and now that the racetrack has evolved a little bit, seeing what they're able to get, Ty was very happy with the tire that they went out on this morning. His plan was only to go out and do 5 laps, but the team said if you don't like it, come in after 2. He stayed out for a full 7 before he made that pit stop and changed to the tire that they know works really well. So Ty's going to get back up to speed. He's going to get more comfortable, but they're just you're going through those motions. You talk about the changes in the selection process, and this is all part of it.
Yeah, and while you were talking, Jamie, Ty goes to the top of the pile. 148.793, the benchmark time in qualifier number 2 for Group A with 8 minutes and 57 seconds left. Hey, play MotoAmerica for cash. Baggers and Supersport Series are now live on Topps BetBooks and DFS platforms. Scan the flow code or visit nxtbets.com/PlayMA to see what's available in your location. Sign up now, claim exclusive bonuses, and make your picks now. Jay, you know all about this.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. If there's somebody that you really think can win this race, or you think that you got your favorite rider, want to put a little bit of, put a few shekels on it, as I say, Greg, and be able to stand by your rider and watch during the races, and it's kind of fun to just kind of look at the odds anyways to see who's favorite. Here's Richard Cooper up on the banking right now. Ty Scott does that lap, Greg, that 48.7. He throws out a big warning shot. He does that lap on his own. Looks like he's still on another one as well. I think I saw somebody just behind him, so he may have even got a draft. I love how Ty Scott is staying as low as he can on the bankings at the moment. But again, these are lap times, Greg. He's on an even quicker lap time. This could push us down into the low to mid 48s if he stays on the lap that he's on now. And Herron's just up the road, probably about 4 seconds ahead of Ty Scott right now. So Ty's going to be able to start to see him as he goes 48.3, low 48s now, Greg. 48.3. That's only, what, 3/10 off the fastest lap we've ever seen around here. Look at this. Escalante in the draft of Richard Cooper as he comes across the line. Richard Cooper moves up to 3rd at a 49 flat. Escalante 49.1. Joe Lamondre Jr. rounds out our top 5. Again, Greg, a kid we talked about just now. Escalante gets shot up out of the seat ever so slightly. Gus Rodeo is right there as well in 7th.
That's because Cooper crashed.
Ah, is that
so
what happened?
While we were on that tight shot, Cooper crashed, and that was a reactionary movement from Escalante. So Richard Cooper, unfortunately, what do you think, Jay? Just tuck the front?
Yeah, it looks like it's probably just the front. You can see he's looking at the left side of his leather, so hopefully that's just hopefully he didn't high side off the inside. I wouldn't think that he did. Let's have a look here. He's probably going to just lose the front in around this area. Yeah, you can see the front just kind of go underneath him, and that's what we saw, that reaction from Escalante as he stood the bike up ever so quickly. A couple shout outs too. Carl Soltis is the 9th right now. He's jumped up as well. Again, there you see Richard Cooper just lose it pretty late in the corner, Greg, for you to lose the front like that. So he probably tried to save that on his knee for a little bit of time. You can see he's back up and okay, though. The crew should be able to get that bike ready for the time attacks, no problem. As you see on our screen now, half a second
here we go.
Is Josh Herron quicker in that first split.
That's a red split, so that means he's gone a half a second quicker than the fastest Sector 1 split time period.
And it looks like he's lost a little time to that. Again, this is going to be another low 48, but see right now, he's going to get this draft off Danny Webb. You can feel that draft from as many as 10, 12 bike lengths back, and he's going to get a big draft right now as he goes 47.9. There you go, Greg, new lap record.
New lap record, 147.9 for Josh Herron, a perfectly timed draft. Now Josh, now in a group, but he was able to kind of get that break and win from the 999 of Danny Webb. And Herron, I think, thinks he's got a little bit more in the tank, but unfortunately he's kind of locked into a group right now. But a 47.980 sets the benchmark. You know, that looked like frustration. I don't think it is. I think he knows he did the lap time that he was hoping he could do. I think that 47.9, he absolutely had the most perfect timed lap, Greg, from the chicane to that tri-oval, and he was able to just suck up into the draft behind Danny Webb there. And I really do believe that's the excitement that you saw in the head notions that Josh was making, the fact that he's gone out and gone 47.9. We predicted it yesterday, even though it was blowing pretty hard. There's Joe Lamondre. Let's see, I don't know what happened. It looks like he might have just a small problem. So his crew can expect Joe to probably pit this lap. There's only 5 minutes left in this session. So Herron right now, 3/10 over Ty Scott, who ran a very fast 48.3 by himself. But for Herron, that 47.9, what does that mean they're going to do in the time attack now? Yeah, that's really the question, especially if they go out in one big group. So it's going to be, it's just perfect. The weather is perfect. Jamie talked about the temperature's just right. There's heat in the track. The wind is at a virtual minimum here on the east coast of Florida as the 641 Lamondre Jr. getting back up to speed sitting at P5 right now.
Yep, and you know, when you start to talk about it, let's give his team, Greg, a shout out there. The Boss Racing, Barkon Racing team has done a really good job getting this guy back down here to Daytona. And I'm sure Dad's wandering around the paddock down there somewhere as well. So I think for Joe, running 5th place right now is going to be a big boost for that team.
So we have Josh Aaron, top of the pile, 147.980. That is a new record from Ty Scott's 148.047 from last year. Ty Scott in this session is second in the pits at a 148.3. Richard Cooper at a 149.0. He landed on the deck, but he's back up as we look at the number 2 of the team. I like what I'm seeing. Every stop is like a rehearsal for what's going to happen tomorrow in the Daytona 200. Sans the fuel part of it, obviously. And then you have Escalante in 4th, LeMandry Jr. in 5th, Peter Hickman in 6th, Gus Rodeo in 7th, Posh in 8th, Carl Sotiz in 9th. The True Love brothers back-to-back, 10 and 11. Danny Webb just ahead of Danny Eslick in 13th.
Yeah, you can see it's really good on that team. And you know, Greg, the thing is we talk about people that have never won this race 3 times on the trot, and this guy has that opportunity. That team's going to know it as well. Here's a good look at Carl Sotiz right now, running 9th. Greg, 49.7 for Carl. What a lap that is. You can see, looks like he's just in behind Jason Farrell right now, and there's a 3rd rider just up in front of them.
And Carl Sotiz came into this qualifying session with a very specific goal in mind after that first qualifying session yesterday, where the best he could do was a 50.9. He said, guys, when I come off of the racetrack, I want to be in the 49s. If I'm not there, then we've got too much ground to make up. So he's going to be really happy with that 49.7 that he's been able to put in. And it really just comes down to comfort. It comes down to the laps and just being out there. But the team worked really hard overnight to put all of those changes into effect, and it's going to pay out, and they're going to be pretty happy after this session.
Carl's been around Jamie for quite some time, and so I think this will be extremely encouraging to him. You have to remember something at this track, Greg, and we talk about it a lot. If you're within a 1.5 seconds at the fastest lap, you'll have a very good chance of staying in that lead draft as it goes. You'll get pulled around that lead draft. You see here, he's able to draft past Jason Farrell as they come off that bank. Let's see what his lap is here. He's also got, I believe it's Peter Hickman, just up in front of him as well. So that lap through, Carl goes 50.7, Hickey goes 50.2. But if he can get up behind Peter Hickman for the rest of this lap, expect to see another good lap as Ty Scott gets ready to go out. He's not going to get a full lap in, Greg, so they're going to send him out so that he can most likely just get himself a practice start here in a little bit.
Yeah, with 1:37 on the clock, pulling out of pit lane, and these lap times at fastest, 1:47.9 for Josh Aaron. He's not going to get around, but there are riders still out on the racetrack. I had a chance to talk to the 69 of Danny Eslick on the TOBC Racing machine as we look at him. You know, Jay, this is the 20th anniversary that he's done this race. The first time he did it was all the way back in 05, and Eslick looks really good.
I believe that's Shane Narbonne just behind him, right behind him, I think. Yeah,
164.
I was looking on the screen there. Good to see Shane here as well. Seasoned guy as he's been around quite a bit, as well as Danny Eslick. Couple-time winner of this race is Danny, and back on that TOBC Triumph as he comes out. He's done a 50.4. Looking at these guys' splits, 31.3 to 31.3 in that first split. To put some reference in that, Ty Scott went 30.5 in that first split, so they're just about a second off. And you can see Danny did a good job getting in and out of the chicane.
And for Danny, that's where he was struggling yesterday. The team said after both of those sessions that overnight their biggest goal was really just to settle down the chassis. They were dealing with way too much vibration. Their gearing was also a little bit off, and Danny was able to already go half a second quicker than what he did yesterday. Of course, the conditions are a little bit better as well, but when he came in and debriefed with the team after that first run early on, he said, this was way better. This is definitely something that I can ride with. And similarly for his teammate, Brandon Posh, they were having the exact same issues on that bike. Brandon's been able to make up over a second this morning as well. So much happier with the bikes now that they have for the rest of the weekend.
And hopefully they'll be able to close the gap when racing gets going. Because if there's anybody who knows how to get into the chicane, on the first lap, it's going to be Danny Eslick, and we'll talk about that tomorrow when we get into the Daytona 200 in more detail. But the checkered flag is out on qualifier number 2, Group A. Josh Herrin continues, or is the leader, 147.980. As we look at our timing and scoring screens, we don't see anybody. Alex Arango is on a best lap for him, but he's back in 17th place. No one's really lighting up the tree, Jay, so it looks like this order is going to be relatively set as Josh Herrin comes around his final time in qualifier number 2. So it's Herrin 147.9, Ty Scott 148.36. But don't forget, he did a 48.9 yesterday, so he blew that out of the water, did Ty Scott. Richard Cooper at a 149 flat. So what they'll look at is they'll combine qualifier number 1, number 2, and make sure that everybody went quicker in qualifier number 2. But whatever time is your fastest time of those 2 sessions, that's going to put you in the order of 1st to 17th. Into the pits he comes. Pit lane speed limit practice. Got to make sure that by the time you hit that line that you are on the pit lane speed, or else that is going to be an infraction, and that can vary, but it's going to be a time penalty added to your time during the Daytona 200. So critical, not only to go fast on the racetrack, but you've got to understand all the components of what happens of getting, during a race, getting into the pits, down to speed, putting your bike where it needs to be in the pit box.
In-lap and out-laps.
In-laps, out-laps, it's so important.
Yeah, it's just such a different type of race. It's such a, conditions can change during the race too, just with the wind getting buffeted around on the banking and so on. So as you see Herrin here talking to a few of his crew about things right now, and yeah, they got to be pretty happy with that morning session, I would think.
So fastest lap for Supersport bikes around Daytona International Speedway of all time, a 147.980 for the Celtic Economy Lube Plus Tire Warhorse HSBK Ducati Panigale V2 of Josh Herrin. What a run for Herrin. And man, he did most of that lap by himself and then had the perfectly timed draft. Got a little bit of that draft off the 999, able to produce that lap time. So impressive by Josh Herrin. So we can see Josh and his crew congratulating each other, but still time attack coming up later on today. So as riders now get to stop and have a practice start, which, Jay, you would have to say at the Daytona 200 is probably not the most critical thing of any race that we go to. There's 57 laps to figure it out. So there it is, 147.980 new track record. Ty Scott in there in 2nd place. Then Richard Cooper. Boy, it's going to be interesting to see what Coop's going to be able to uncork when we get to the race. Escalante, Lemandry Jr., Bazooka Joe in there in the top 5 ahead of Hickman, Gus Rodeo, Poch, Soltis, and Harry Truelove in the battle of the brothers. Ekes his brother out by 13 thousandths of a second. Well, that'll do it for qualifying session number 2. So much more race action and qualifying action coming at you as we look at the 147 of Cooper in 3rd place, getting his way around Daytona International Speedway. There's Ty Scott on the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki, pushing his own air and getting the job done. And as we look forward to time attack, it's all about this number 2. He's the one who's going to uncork the strategy. What's he going to do? Everybody's going to follow, as we're going to follow up with more action from DIS after this.
Hey, I'm Michael. I'm with Insta360, and we're here at MotoAmerica in Austin, Texas, and you're at the Insta360 booth right now. We're showing off some of the most innovative action cameras in the world. This is the Insta360 X3. It has a lens on the front and a lens on the back, and it sees everything. And these are by far the most popular action camera for any two-wheel or motorsports these days. What's really cool about it is you don't really have to worry about how it's mounted or where the camera's pointing, because it's recording everything. It's got best-in-class stabilization. It records at 5.7K, so ultra-high resolution, and you get a whole suite of editing features all for free inside the Insta360 app. So once you're done capturing, you could reframe the footage and essentially pick any angle in any moment from your shot. And what's really cool is that we partnered with MotoAmerica, and these guys are using the X3, the Insta360 One RS, and the Go 3 for the live broadcast. If you're interested in learning more about Insta360 cameras, check us out online. Go to www.insta360.com or look for @Insta360 across any social media platform. You'll see a ton of content on there. You'll see examples of how people use their footage. You'll get pricing and everything like that on our website. Hope you guys can check us out. Thank you so much.
We take things in. Usually our turnaround time is about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then we could ship it back to you as well.
Welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway. We're here for Group B qualifying for the Daytona 200. So the Supersport riders back out on track. Yesterday it was Trevor Daly leading the way in the Group B class, but we've just seen the Group A's out there with their fast times, and Rog, there are some very fast times out there in the Supersport class.
Yeah, really good times, especially for Josh Herron there, getting so close to the outright track record. And you got to expect, this afternoon all these guys are going to be going a little bit quicker, and for Josh, if he can get a maybe even a draft as well. So I think you'll see more guys in that time attack try to get out there and get together. And some interesting names didn't make it, but Joe LeManuel, we got to give him a shout out there for the top 5.
Yeah, really impressive on that 614 machine for Joe to be right up there. And it was Josh Herron leading the way from Tyler Scott and then Richard Cooper out there in the Group A class. As it'll be for the Group B riders, they're getting it ready for their session now. 30 minutes of qualifying action, and you can see here for the Daytona 200, nxtbets.com/playma, and these are the riders to keep an eye on during the course of the weekend. And Josh Herron, he's done nothing to disprove that he's the favorite, Rog.
Yeah, Josh is definitely the favorite. Richie Escalante is a good pick, but I mentioned yesterday, and I'd stick with it today, if I was going to do a long shot, Peter Higman or Richard Cooper. Both those two guys have showed so far this weekend that they have the pace. So if you're looking for a long shot, I would go for one of those two guys. Who would you put your money on?
I have to say Coops for me, because he's able to use the draft so well. Fast in that qualifying session for the Group A riders, provisionally on that front row of the grid before the shootout later on this afternoon. But he looks very strong. Jamie, what about you? What are you thinking about for the odds?
Well, I'm looking at the odds right now that everybody is seeing at the same time. I think that if you were going Richie Escalante, I mean, that would be a great bet for me. But Brandon Posh also, he's always kind of sneaky. He's always right there. He'd be a solid pick.
Yeah, and Pash in the Group A qualifying ended up with that 8th fastest time, so as it stands we should see him in the shootout. Rog, just looking at this session now for the Group B riders, obviously the goal is to make sure you're able to set as fast a time as possible, but what's the situation for this afternoon and that shootout for the overall grid positions?
Well, if one of these guys in the Group B can get inside that top 12, they'll make the time attack. So just because you're in Group B, you can still out-qualify anybody in that Group A. So it's still combined overall for the groups. So these guys are all going to go out and try to do a better lap time today. We've seen all the lap times in every class be quite a bit quicker, and I'm sure everyone's been seeing that. So it's going to be a huge session for these guys, and they're also going to have to get out and feel the wind. Every class yesterday we talked about the wind, and it's the first time they're getting to see the track today, and it's going to be totally different than what they had yesterday.
Yeah, and certainly for the riders in this, they're looking for that top 12 spot. And from the Group A qualifiers, it was Danny Webb that was on the bubble with a 50.2. So we'll keep an eye on the times to see if anyone's able to challenge Danny Webb's time, as it is the riders making their way out of pit lane and on the outlaps for them now. But if you want to play MotoAmerica for cash, Superbikes, Baggers and Supersport Series are now live on the top sportsbook and DFS platforms. Scan the flow code or visit nxtbets.com/
Play MA to see what's available in your location. Sign up and claim your exclusive bonuses and make your picks now. As it is, Rog, the time for these riders is now just to start picking when they need to set their fast times, and we're about to see the first flying lap started now in this Group B Supersport qualifying session.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these guys will be feeling out the track and feeling where the wind is different today because we don't have as much wind, and then also it's going to be a lot more grip today, and I think all these guys are going to pick up speed, and I'm sure they made changes overnight. We've heard some riders talking about the track being a little bit bumpy on the infield there, so they want to check that setup out, and and then toward the end, I think you'll see everybody come into the pits, get a fresh rear tire, and go out and put that absolute best lap in.
Yeah, just at the back of this group of 3 riders is the fastest rider from Group B yesterday. Trevor Daly on that number 166 machine, and he's chasing down Sam West on the 162. They were our fastest 2 riders in yesterday's qualifying session, and for Trevor Daly, his time yesterday was a 53.499, so he needs to find around about 3 seconds to put himself into that shootout later on, and difficult to be able to find that time, but conditions very different now as well, Rog, compared to what we had yesterday.
Yeah, different conditions, and then also, like you said, it'd be difficult to find 3 seconds, but the track is going to be so much better. Maybe some changes overnight. Also here, a great draft out of the chicane would help, and we'll see what he can do. It's going to be interesting to watch to see if he can get himself there inside that top 12.
One of those situations as well for Daly on that number 166 machine. Yesterday he was so much faster than everyone else in this group, 1.7 seconds faster than the second fastest rider in Group B. That's not going to play into his hands either, because he doesn't really have that partner to be able to use that yardstick.
Exactly, and also too, whenever you're trying to follow somebody, you just want somebody a little bit quicker or a little bit slower, so you kind of catch them slowly through the infield, and for him it's going to be hard, just because Trevor was quite a bit quicker than everyone yesterday. But this is a great opportunity for him to go out and get quicker, but also put himself right in the middle of that pack for the Daytona 200.
You can see here Jake Van Dell making his way around the bank section, and the number 18 raced in the Supersport class last year, but is debuting now for the Daytona 200 this weekend. So we'll see what he's able to do during the course of this session. In yesterday's session, though, for Jake, it was a case of trying to just build yourself up all the way through. He was 25th fastest on the combined times in yesterday's qualifying, but we'll see if he's able to make a step forward from his 1 minute 55 yesterday to be able to put himself into the mix. We're now catching up with the 129 machine, and for the 129 machine, Shane Maggs, we saw Roger had to sit out the end of yesterday's session, missed out on running for, I think it was the last 7 minutes of qualifying 1.
Yeah, but he was really quick all the way up until the end, but unfortunately didn't get out there toward the end. Little issue with the bike, but looks like the team's got that worked out, but was looking really good early on, and just unfortunately missed those last couple minutes, and looks like they got things sorted out today.
Yeah, everyone able to lose a little bit of running in Thursday practice. We saw quite a few riders hitting some trouble across the different classes, but this is now the real put up or shut up time. The weather conditions have improved so much. Think back to yesterday, it was cold, it was windy, it was really tricky for the riders out there. Now we've got a much warmer day, but most importantly, Rog, a much calmer day. We've got the wind has died down, and it feels like we're in the middle of Florida now rather than yesterday.
Yeah, and you see Dylan there, 54.8. Yesterday he was 56.0. So you're seeing guys already starting to drop over a second off their lap time on their very first flying lap. And one thing with the wind as well that can make changes here at Daytona with the long straightaways with the run to each chicane is your gearing, because you can be going 6-7 mile an hour quicker with the draft, plus a tailwind going in one direction or a headwind in the other. So it's going to be a little bit different today. So if you set your bike up for that yesterday, you're going to find out today that maybe that wasn't the right way.
Yeah, back to Trevor Daly now that we catch up with. And in last year's race, Trevor was able to finish in P20 at the end of the 200. And Rog, it's all about making progression year on year. He does look like a rider that's made that step, and I think he'd be one guy that was probably a little bit aggrieved to not be in the Group A qualifying. But as it is, he's been pretty solid all the way through this week.
Yeah, he's got to be targeting a top 15, and that's definitely achievable, and even maybe a top 10, with the lap times that he's able to do. And, it's such a long race. The biggest part of the 200 is being consistent and not making a mistake, either on the track or in the pits. So with the pace Trevor's shown this weekend, definitely a top 15 and maybe even a top 10 if some things go his way.
It's a strange one as well because this is a non-points race, doesn't count for your season in the Supersport class. So for the riders, there's times now where there's nothing to lose. You got to just push on as hard as you can, and you don't think about the long game like you will at the opening round of the MotoAmerica Supersport season. Right now, you're only thinking about the 200. And you can see for Trevor Daly making his way around. And Jamie, you're down in the pits with some news on Trevor.
Well, just thinking back to yesterday, you know, he's got John Cornwell, who's the crew chief for Jake Gagne for all of those years. Now he's working with him in his corner. And yesterday, remember, he came into pit lane during that qualifying session, and John just flat out told him, he said, you've got to push yourself. You've got to ride the bike that's underneath you. We'll make the changes afterwards, but we need to find the limit. And so when he went back out there, he was able to do that. He was able to push a little bit more. So he's a coachable rider, and that's where he's able to find some of the speed and gain some of the confidence, and really just a lot of good things to come for him.
Yeah, and it's tough for Trevor as well, Rog, 39 years of age, and you're trying to make these steps later on in your career. And obviously for his whole crew and his team, they're all trying to push on as hard as they can to get the best result possible. But you know, for Trevor, he's not that young rider, the up-and-coming rider. He's here trying to just show what he can do over this weekend.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, you want to take suggestions and people try to push you, but it's a lot easier, you know, for somebody to you know, tell you to go out there and push and then actually go out there and do it. But for Trevor, that just means the team believes in you and they know you can do more. They know you can do better, but it's still difficult to go out and, you know, and somebody tells you you can push it harder, but to really go out there and go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and we can see here with Chuck Ivey that Chuck's an interesting rider just to follow on from that kind of train of thought as well, because 3 consecutive top 20 finishes, but hasn't managed to crack that top 10, not here at the Daytona 200 in the last 3 years. But a rider that's consistently able to get to the finish and keep himself out of trouble. But it's about making that little step that he needs just to give yourself a chance. It's a big difference, Rog, to be a top 20 man here at Daytona versus a top 10 finisher.
Yeah, and now, you know, try to this year get in the top 15. You can see it, and just not like everything else, you have to see the checkered flag. And that is so hard on a race like this that's 57 laps and not make a mistake. But, you know, everybody's got a goal coming into this season and going into the 200, and it's different for everyone. And for him, you know, I think he believes the top 15 is achievable.
Yeah, and just to mention as well, for Josh Galliser at the end of the field right now, 18th on the timing screens. We saw yesterday he wasn't able to put in a lap in technical problems in practice, and then another technical problem in qualifying. We're now 10 minutes into this session. Josh still hasn't gotten out on the racetrack. And Rog, whenever you're working towards being able to get to the finish of a race, and that's the target, it's so difficult for a team and rider whenever you end up not even being able to get any running in so far in the race weekend.
Yeah, and then not able to get a lap in. So, you know, I think maybe, it looks like maybe they just still can't figure it out, or they've had so many issues they might just want to regroup. And unfortunately, it looks like now he does have a split coming up on the second split there. So it looks like he's on an out lap, so maybe he'll be able to get some laps in. But this is going to be a huge last 20 minutes for him. This is going to be the first time he really gets to see the track without the wind and the heat.
Yeah, and certainly for Josh, at least he's got that chance now, having just left pit lane. So hopefully able to get in some running here in the last 20 minutes, start putting in some representative times, and be able to qualify for the 200. We can see here the 401 making its way around, and Dylan Bauer doing a decent job here as well on that machine. But for Dylan, a former pro motocross racer, was able to race 450 outdoors on a couple of occasions, and able to transition now onto the Supersport bike as well. And Rog, it's always difficult for riders to be able to jump from one discipline to the other. Obviously, a lot of riders come through the flat track ranks, but to come from motocross into this background is always a big struggle. When you look at Jake Gagne, probably the best example of someone that was able to do that.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, one thing, he'll be kind of used to the bumps from doing the outdoor motocross, but it's just so hard. It's totally different ball game. But I do think it will help you in the beginning a little bit to have some of those bike skills, especially a guy that can ride motocross at his level. But it's still not easy, and it's like anything else. It's finding that confidence now in a totally different discipline.
Yeah, Daytona 200 debut coming up for Dylan, and solid job by him. Second fastest in this session. and around about 0.8 of a second slower than Trevor Daly as we catch up with Sam West now on that number 162 machine. Just looking at the times as well, 53.5 is the time from Trevor Daly, and when we compare that to yesterday's time, he's around about 0.5 of a second slower than he went. And Dylan Bauer second fastest in this session, and he's been able to find around about 1.5 seconds. So good step forward being made there by Dylan and his crew in that Yamaha R6.
Yeah, it looks like he's just getting quicker as well. Trevor seems like the guy that has not yet kind of made that jump, and you just never know early on in these sessions what somebody is working on. A lot of times a guy might have put a tire on toward the end of that first qualifying yesterday, and then they start on it today to get more laps, and then toward the end, you know, they might throw some rubber at it. But for him right now, just hasn't found that extra little bit. Seems like Dylan and some of the other guys has been able to get. Yesterday he had a huge gap on the rest of the field of the B group, and today it's under a second.
Yeah, a lot closer now, 0.8, and we've got Sam West within a second as well, third fastest. And Rog, just to follow on about the tyre allocation as well, what would be your strategy for a session like this?
Well, in the beginning, definitely would be to work on the race and get as many laps as possible, and see what the tire is going to feel like as they go on. And the thing early on, but also you want to qualify well. And the race is so long, and it's going to be hot and greasy, and you're going to want the bike to work good after those first 4 or 5 laps when the tires go off. So I'd be going out and trying to get a lot of laps on those tires and getting all the information I can and give it to my tire manufacturer and let them help me make the best decision. And then when, you know, under 10 minutes, I'd be trying to go out and put some fresh rubber on and seeing how fast I can go.
Yeah, it's not easy out there for the riders. Whenever you think that over the course of the 257 laps around this Daytona International Speedway, so you need to make sure you're able to get that tire to work at the end of the race as well. And always interesting for this race as well, Rog, we've got a tire war for the Supersport class. Riders out there on Bridgestones and Pirellis and Dunlops.
Yeah, you know, it makes it a little bit more exciting. You get to see the different brands. You know, now we see a Pirelli rider, Trevor, I believe, is the Bridgestone guy. So a lot of different manufacturers, and you know, everybody wants to come to Daytona and show off their brand and see who's got the best tire. And every year it's always a really good battle.
Yeah, and the 401 there, Daniel Spalding from just up the road in Central Florida, and trying to give himself that chance to make sure that for his Daytona debut he's able to qualify further up the field, because once you're down the order outside those top 12 places, you are going to set your grid position based on that fastest time. Sam West just about to set his fastest time of the session so far, and Westy moves up 0.4 of a second off the fastest time. But Roger, we were again able to see there no slipstream in front of him on that run to the line.
Yeah, no drafting partner there, but he was able to go quite a bit quicker than he went yesterday. And I think you're going to see that with a lot of these guys. And once you go quicker, you start dropping a second like they're all doing, your bike setup's going to change. You're going to need a little bit more from the crew, so you're going to go out and start going a second quicker or 2 seconds quicker than you went yesterday. And then problems are going to pop up. You know, there's a downside of that. You're going to start feeling the, you know, less grip or more chatter at that speed. So I'm sure you see these guys go out and find that next step, and now they need to come in and get a couple tweaks to the bike to keep finding a little bit more.
Yeah, we can see Chris Sabora here on the 256, 7th spot in this session so far, halfway through it. Chris, a very experienced road racer at the Isle of Man TT, and able to do a solid job in this Group B qualifying as well. 7th fastest for Sabora out there on his machine, and around about 3.5 seconds off the pace of Trevor Daly. But you're within half a second of moving up ahead of Dan Spalding, and it's pretty competitive in that middle pack here in the Group B qualifying. But there is a bit of a gap between the likes of Trevor Daly, Sam West and Dylan Bauer and the rest of the field right now, as we catch up in the pits there with number 18 mistake of Jake Vandal, and Jake doing a good job here in 10th spot as well in this Group B qualifying session. But for Jake, round about 4.5 seconds off the pace of the front runners. And Rog, it's always tough for the riders in the Group B, because you have some riders like Trevor Daly that are capable of being in that fast group as well. That's the same as for Sam West and Dylan Bauer. But for some of the other riders, you're trying to build your experience. You're trying to make sure that here at Daytona you're able to make those steps, not just for this year, but for future years as well.
It's just always just about learning, and for a lot of these guys, this is their first time here. They don't do all the MotoAmerica races, and it can be daunting, you know, when you see the speed and the lap times that some of the other guys are doing, and just got to have your own goal and try to get out there and just slowly improve and just always get better. You see everybody on pit lane now coming in and making some changes.
And down the pits, Jamie, what can you tell us about Trevor Daly, our pace setter in this session?
I don't know that the pace is going to slow down at all. Trevor's actually on pit lane right now. He's checking in with the team, talking about some of the riding attributes of this bike right now, and to see how much more he can go out and push and what's left in it. But the team also took this opportunity to go ahead and put a new rear and a new front tire on this number 166 Suzuki. So we look for Trevor to get back out there and see if he can even lower the time that he already put in.
Yeah, and Rod, you can see there the Bridgestone tires for Trevor in this one, and very different characteristics from the Bridgestones compared to the Dunlops or the Pirellis. And for Trevor, if you put out the fresh front tire and the rear tire, he's going to have a lot more confidence. Bridgestone's always traditionally very strong in that front end. And
also, too, knowing that the session's going to wind down, he's going to be pushing that extra little bit, try to see how far he can move up on the qualifying. You see him here talking to Corn Dog there. That's actually, we seen him on the Arch bike yesterday, and that's also been Jake Gagne's crew chief. So he's got some good knowledge right there. Both those guys Canadians, and you know, you can see they're really working on something with the bike. You can tell that the hand movements, there's something that he's just not really he's comfortable with that's kind of holding him back.
Just in relation to the tires as well, Rod, what are you looking for around Daytona specifically? Because we go to some places where you're looking for that stability on the front when you're on the brakes. Here, presumably, it's just about having something that when you're on the side of the tire and the banking through the loaded sections, that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, the banking, and then also grip. Trying to get it's so important to get that run out of the chicane, and then also out of turn 6 up the banking. So you're looking for grip and then also stability around the banking. You don't want a bike that's kind of moving around. So I think a lot of it's grip and a lot of it's stability.
Yeah, you're looking for everything.
Yeah.
But for the riders out here, you can see quite a few of them just taking a break in the pits as well. The time tower on the left-hand side of the screen just showing the pit indications there for our two fastest riders, and most of the riders in the top 10 all in the pits right now. So the calm before the storm as well, Rog, just before everyone gets out there and uses their fresh tires to go out and try and set their fast time.
Yeah, kind of like we said in the beginning, that everybody would go out the first 15 or 20 minutes, work on their race pace, see everybody coming in, not only getting a fresh tire, but getting a drink of water, and sometimes it's good just to take a breath. You know, just kind of, you know, you've been out there and you've been pushing hard, and maybe your lap time's not coming like you would like. So you come in now with 10 minutes to go, and maybe just take a minute, get a drink of water, ask your crew where you can be better, kind of do a couple, you know, mental laps in your head maybe, and whatever you might be struggling with, and then get back out.
Just for you, Rog, when you think back to your career, whenever you're in these high pressure moments, you come off the bike, obviously you can see for Trevor Daly, kept his helmet on, kept himself ready to jump straight back on. But for the riders at a moment like this, is it one of those times where you're trying to get your heart rate down, you're trying to calm yourself down and then be ready to go? And I'd imagine for you, Rog, you'd be happy enough in the middle of a session just to nip over and see if you can land one.
He's got the right job today over there, get to do a little fishing.
And
he's one of he works on the camera crew, so he's yeah, I need to figure out what he's doing right, getting the fish on the clock.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you don't want to be caught on camera whenever it's a situation like this, Tommy. Get yourself back to work. But for the riders in this situation as well, they're ready to get themselves back to work and leaving the pits now. We can see quite a few riders have left. We saw a quick glimpse of Trevor Daly leaving the pits, and Dylan Bauer has left the pits as well, as has Austin Martinez. Martinez doing a solid job now, just under a second off the pace of Dylan Bauer as well, running up inside the top 5. But Jamie, what can you tell us from pit road?
in talking to it, Shane Maggs, the 129 rider. Remember, we talked to him yesterday at the end of that qualifying session, and unfortunately, he was not able to get back out there. And at the last 10 minutes of that qualifying session, the team did determine overnight that they were going to have to switch out the engine. And so the engine that's on the bike now is completely bone stock. That means that they're 15 horsepower down as soon as that engine was installed. And in the case of Shane, having to ride the bike differently now today, and you get ready for the race, you know that this is the setup that you're going to have. So what is it that you're trying to work on?
It's just up to me to go faster now. It's just I've just got to put my head down and learn how to ride the bike a little bit differently. You know, on the banking with the extra horsepower, it helps a lot. But I've got to improve. I've got to find 4 or 5 seconds in the infield section alone, and that's where my weakness is. But we'll get there. Like, you know, we're going to make a couple of changes to the electronics here now, just before I head back out, put a new tyre on, and see what we can do in the last 8 minutes.
I know it was heartbreak having to do that engine change, but great job to everybody on the team being able to get it done and get you back out here and be able to go and fight for the Daytona 200.
Absolutely, yeah. The team, they put in the hours last night, you know, changing out an engine. With our limited crew, you know, with 3 or 4 people and stuff, it takes a mission, you know, and I'm so blessed to have these guys around me throughout the year, but for the rest of the season as well. But to do what they did to get the bike going in Q2, hopefully we can put it up higher on the grid. So
everybody that's here watching you, I know you brought your family over from Belmont, watching from home as well in Nashville. See the camera up there on the roof? You gonna give them a wave? There you go. Nice job. We'll see you back out there.
Thank you.
And Daytona is definitely a place that you don't want to have a stock engine. You know, if there's one track on the calendar, I mean, we talk about top speeds and drafting and all that here at Daytona, and that's just going to make his job quite a bit harder. But he's got a good attitude about it. I like that. He's not making excuses, saying he needs to get a little bit better. But when you're down 15 horsepower, that's going to change everything. Your drive off the corner, it's going to change your gearing drastically as well. So a lot to learn today, but great job by the team. At least he's out there.
Yeah, Shane's going to feel that he's into that headwind everywhere that we had yesterday. But you mentioned there, Roger, about the top speed and the drive out the corners. How big of it? Where is the biggest difference for it? Is it in that top speed, or is it just being able to have that confidence, be able to pull out of the turn?
Well, top speed is definitely the most important. But if you're somewhere with somebody that's, you know, kind of even, or you're a little bit down, the run out of the chicane just starts right here as you're getting out from this right to the left, because he's going to start carrying his momentum all the way from here, and you'll just keep picking up mile an hour if you have a really good run, and you'll just keep carrying that speed for such a long time. The high speeds is where you make up the most time, and so on the banking is where you can make up or lose a lot of time by getting a good run out of that chicane, because just imagine going that whole length right there 2 or 3 mile an hour quicker because you got a good run out of there.
Yeah, we're seeing some riders going quicker overall as well. Daniel Spalding's just set in his personal best, 4th fastest for the 411, and Jake Vandal on his Suzuki has just set his personal best to move within right about a second of that top 6 spot as well. So they're starting to find their improvements, and into the last 6 minutes here of Group B qualifying, we've been able to see everyone leave the pits, but Roger, you can see just how bumpy it is in that section there. The exhaust, the fairing, all moving around for the riders. As we see August Norwood just coming around this section of the track as well. And for the riders in a session like this now, Roger, we're into the critical zone now to be able to set your fast time. We're seeing personal best come in. Dan Spalding's just put in another personal best to consolidate that 4th fastest time in this session. But everyone knows that now's the moment to be able to find something. We haven't seen Trevor Daly go out there and improve his time from yesterday, but we know he's out there now with that fresh tyre, and just about to start his 2nd flying lap of this stint as well. And this is where we need to be able to see him make his step to be able to find some more time out there.
Yeah, on this first lap, still just a 54, but when he was on pit lane, it really looked like he was struggling with somebody. As we see Jake Vandal here, knowing it's only under 5 minutes to go with a long track like Daytona. You come in the pits, and when you get back out, there's not a lot of laps to go, especially if you get held up with a lapper or you make a mistake. You don't get a lot of laps to recover.
And it's a long pit road as well, all the way on the limiter to the exit of those first couple of corners. as the number 18 makes its way around. Jake Vandal, we've also already seen that he's improved his times on the last couple of tours. And for Vandal, last time around, lost out a little bit of ground, but still with 5 minutes left in this session, enough time for probably 3 more flying laps on that number 18. Just when you look at the tyres as well in a session like this, Rog, what's the drop-off point for the riders in the Supersport class?
Oh, they'll get a couple good laps, but you know, yesterday when the track was green, it would be hard to get a couple really good laps. So, you know, with the track being a little bit warmer today, it's going to help them get a little bit more laps of really being able to get the most out of those tires. And we see Trevor Daly has went a little bit quicker than yesterday, but just by a 10th.
Yeah, we've got some traffic in front of him, so he'll try and use that draft to be able to find a little bit of time. But it is difficult to be able to do that whenever you've got such a big speed advantage over quite a few riders. Inside the top 6, we've got Anthony Fania Jr. up there as well. And Jamie, you're down there in the pits with Anthony.
Yes. Anthony, you know, he's got so much experience here as part of the Daytona 200. You told me yesterday your first time out here was back in the 90s. What is it that you're wanting to prove by continuing to come back year after year?
Well, for a long time, we just wanted to come down and run the 200, you know, just because it was a lot of fun after the club racing. And then after the 90s into the 2000s, we start to accumulate all these mileage. So, like, before you know it, you know, now you're in 8th, and now you're in 7th, and we passed a couple more guys that, you know, got all their mileage on the beach, you know, back in the day. And, you know, I kind of retired from road racing, but didn't want to retire from this. You know, it really is my home track. Been coming here for a real long time. I mean, the team, look at this team that I still have behind me after all this time. KSW guys, Barry's Appliance, I mean, Vantage Motors from New Jersey. We have so many people that step up to make this happen. They all paid to be here on their own, you know, so it's the only way it makes it work. And I think we're gonna, you know, maybe make a run at that mileage record. John Ashmead, may rest in peace, a real good buddy of mine, and he has that record. And when he passed, I was going to let him have it. But yeah, you know, we got so much team here. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm okay either way.
That mileage record that he's talking about, the number of miles being run here as part of the Daytona 200 weekend. I want to go back to the team that's behind you right now. They told me yesterday, we're all volunteers. He's able to get us out here every single year. For you, I watch you every time you come off of this bike, and you shake their hands, you pat them on the back. To have your group of friends behind you, I mean, when you look at all of them, what is it that you want to thank them for?
That's my team! Gets it done every year. I'm so proud of them. Like I said, you know, we're all down here on our own money. You know, it works. I can't do it alone.
We got to have you out here. It's great to have you out here year after year.
Hey, thank you so much. Hi, Mom. Hi, everybody at home. Sorry you couldn't be here, but we're doing it. We made it. We're in the field.
There you go. Nice job. Great. Guys.
We've got a crasher there. The 129 has gone down, and that's Shane Maggs that we heard from down in the pits. And a minute and a half left in this session. Obviously, that's the session now done for Shane, but the yellow flags are out now as well at the chicane, Rog. So anyone that's on a personal best coming through that section, they're going to have to roll off.
Yeah, you're going to have to slow down, and for Shane there, just trying to go out and, you know, push the limits a little more here into the chicane. We've seen a lot of action here in this right-hander today. I think just about every accident we've seen has been onto that right-hander. And you're just trying to find that little extra bit. He said he needed to go a little bit quicker, and he went out there and pushed a little hard and pushed it a little too hard there. So unfortunately his session's done, but he's up, he's okay. Bike's not too bad. He'll be ready to go racing tomorrow.
Yeah, and for Shane, that's going to be the end of his session. He was just on his first flying lap of that stint as well. But like you said, Rog, he had said that he needed to find a lot of time in that middle sector of the lap and just trying to push it on. And there's a limit for everything for a bike and rider out there. And unfortunately for Shane, just gets caught out there. But that first flying lap on the right side of the tire, easy for it to be that little bit cold.
Yeah, easy. Not a lot of right-handers, and if you're not really fast right out of the pits right away, it's hard on those right sides.
Trevor Daly making his way around, and Trevor's being caught now by Sam West. Sam West only 0.05 of a second slower than Daly in this session now as well. West just put in his personal best on the 162 machine, and as we head down towards the checkered flag now, only 10 seconds left in the session. Daly and West should have enough time just to finish off this lap, but they won't be able to get through to start another one. But Trevor Daly, he's been the fastest rider in Group B all the way through the weekend so far, but being challenged now right at the end of this session, Rog.
Yeah, I got a little competition, and Trevor hasn't really made that big step, but when you watch his lap times, they're all consistently into those 53s. And when we go racing on Saturday, that's going to be the most important part, is 57 consistent laps. So he's able to be consistent, but I think he would like to be consistently, in the high 52s if he could.
Yeah, just finding that few tenths of a second, and everyone's always looking for those few tenths of a second, whether you're in the Group B session or you're Josh Herron trying to win that third Daytona 200 in a row. Everyone's always chasing for something, and in this session it's Trevor Daly that they've been chasing down on the 166, and we'll see if anyone on their final lap is able to challenge his 1 minute 53.3, and just found that little bit of time compared to yesterday's qualifying session, but for Trevor, he's able to take that checkered flag and end his session. Sam West hasn't been able to improve on his last lap of the session either, and Dylan Bauer is in the pits on the 401 machine, so he's not going to improve his time, and we'll wait and see if anyone else is able to come through. Dan Spalding still out on track, but not putting up personal bests in those first sectors of this lap. So Trevor Daly looks like he's pretty safe and secure as that fastest rider in the Group B qualifying session, and the 166 rider is going to be able to give himself a decent chance in the 200 with a decent grid position as well. But we've seen one fisherman. Now we see one person that's going to have to go out and make sure that they're able to play fetch with that dog as well.
Yeah, I think the dog's looking for somebody to throw the toy for him.
You'd think someone would give it. He's a
Come
good
up to
looking
the
dog.
booth. I'll throw it for you.
Well, we did see JD Beach down in the pits earlier on, so I'm sure JD's now making a beeline towards that dog to be able to play with him. But for these Group B qualifiers as well, obviously for Trevor Daly, able to put in his 1 minute 53.3 and solidly in that mid-pack for Trevor on the grid for the Daytona 200, and we've heard from a lot of riders down in the pits about the importance of just being able to hit the qualifying time and make sure you're in the field, and for Trevor comfortably in the field on his Suzuki 750 ahead of Sam West on his Kawasaki, and then Dylan Bauer up there on his Yamaha R6. But Rog, when you look at some of the other riders, obviously we heard from Anthony down in the pit, 6th fastest in this session, and putting himself in line for that mileage record as well.
Yeah, and good qualifying spot for him, and able to be 6th in the session. He's got to be pretty happy, and what an achievement that he's going for, just the time and commitment to chase that record.
At the bottom of the times, we don't see the 18th rider in this field, Josh Golliser. Josh didn't get able to set a lap time. He got one out lap in, but not able to set a representative fast time. So we'll wait and see what happens for Josh for the rest of the weekend. But really tough Daytona 200 to kick off his racing season. As it is for the Supersport riders, they've still got their qualifying shootout later on this afternoon that'll set the top 12 grid positions for the Daytona 200. Next up on track is the Mission King of the Baggers with their qualifying session and then their challenge race before the time attack at 1:15, and then we're back underway for the Mission Super Hooligan opening race of the weekend, and then the SE Project Twins Cup, and then the Mission King of the Baggers are going to close off the action here at the Daytona International Speedway at 3:05 p.m. as well. And we also have then some action in the pits with the Pit Stop Challenge this afternoon as well at 4:15 p.m. So always interesting to be able to see that, and the challenge facing the teams for the Daytona 200. As it is, Trevor Daly's been able to top the times here in Group B qualifying for the Supersport class.
Hey, it's Max Linders here. I'm racing with the King of the Baggers from Mad Monkey Motorsports, and we are so happy to have Lindell brakes on our team. These beasts weigh up to 650 pounds, and we're going 170 miles an hour. So the only way to stop is to have good brakes, and Lindell brakes give us our confidence so we can really hit the brakes, get into the corner, and get out. So with Lindell brakes, my favorite thing about them is the feel. When you're going into the corners, you can really feel how hard you're pulling the brake to make sure you're not making those small mistakes to tuck the front, and you can really feel how much left the tire has into it. And that's what gives me such confidence to really throw this bagger into the corner. Another great part with Lindell brakes, they actually provided our wheels last year that we got our podium with. It was my first ever podium, it was the team's first ever podium. Everyone went absolutely wild, and honestly, the wheels with the flickability and the control that I was having on the bike, I don't think I could have done it without them, so I'm hugely proud to have them as part of our team, and hopefully we can do it again in the future.
8 laps scheduled for this race. It's Mission King of the Baggers, race number 2 for Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. The lights are on. They're gone, and we're away racing. And up the inside goes the 88 of Flinders, and he's going to take over position from your reigning national champion. What a ride from Max.
And with 4 to go, Flinders finds himself with a spot and a chance to get back up on this podium once again.
As Hayden Gillum is not giving up. He's still sending. Oh, Max.
Man.
The white flag flies. This is for the final step on the podium.
You see that?
Can Max Flinders hold on? Here it comes over the hill with a huge gap is Max Flinders. One more corner to navigate, and he's going to do it again from the last race of the year to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and Max Flinders another podium, 3rd place. Incredible.
Thank you so much to the Mad Monkey Motorsports team. This bike was phenomenal. This weekend's been phenomenal. The crowd here has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for staying through all this rain. Woo! Yeah!
Get ready to eat like a king with Mission Foods. Load up those saddlebags for Mission King of the Baggers Racing and feed your need for flavor. Fully loaded tacos, fast wraps, piled high nachos. Whatever you crave, Mission will help you be race ready with easy-to-make recipes that will take your race day to the finish line. Keep your racing delicious and enjoy all the mouth-watering action. Brought to you by Mission Foods. Too fast, too tasty.
It just kind of surpassed all my expectations as far as handling and actually rideability. It's really impressive.
This bike handles in the mountains like no other bike I've ever ridden.
Sport bike, American touring bike. It's a great hybrid of the two.
It sits down in the road when you hit that throttle and you just take off for the sunset. It drops into that flow and you're gone.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway, part of the Daytona 200 race weekend here to kick off the 2025 season of the MotoAmerica Championship. 4 different categories here this weekend. Daytona 200, the Daytona Supersport bikes not earning championship points, but it is the first championship round for the other 3 racing platforms here this weekend. It is now time for Mission King of the Baggers qualifying session number 2. The first session yesterday. Have some new names here, Roger Hayden.
Yeah, Loris Baz, Cam Peterson racing the King of the Bagger this year, and also Bradley Smith. So we got 3 new names and 3 new guys that'll be at the front.
There's a good look at Loris Baz, who, after qualifying session 1 yesterday, he was going to line up on that front row. So good start to the weekend for him. Let's take a look back the last time we were here.
Yeah, this was race 2 here last year. Kyle Wyman there on the front row in the middle, going to try to do the double here at Daytona, but Troy Hertfoss, great start for him. That was his first weekend in the King of the Bagger. Hayden Gillum, you see him making some moves early. But these two kind of made a break the first couple laps, and then they started dicing back and forth. You see Kyle make a move. Into the chicane on Troy, Tyler O'Hara right there in 3rd. See these two guys trying to get a good run. There was always the draft through the line, and then the draft let these guys kind of catch up. We had a couple more people in the lead pack. You see that right there, James Rispoli, Tyler O'Hara, both those guys were able to make their way to the front, and then we had a 4-rider pack for the win, and just setting themselves up for the last lap. You've seen every rider trying to figure out where they wanted to be as the lap winded down. Troy Hertfoss was in the lead, but he didn't want to lead out of the chicane. He let Kyle by thinking he was going to be able to get back in the draft. Didn't work out the plan. Kyle Wyman was able to win race 2, start the win last year with 2 races.
Take a look at the qualifying results from that first qualifying session yesterday. Kyle Wyman, everybody was chasing him right where he left off here on the high banks at Daytona, but Loris Baz on his debut weekend in Mission King of the Baggers able to be right up there, as well as James Rispoli.
Then we got Tyler O'Hara, Troy Hertfoss. Cam Peterson talked about him coming to King of the Bagger class, and Kyle Onsor. Hayden Gillum down there in 8th with his teammate Rocco Landers, and then Bradley Smith.
You can see that there is some ground to make up there for that team. Let's take a look at the picks here, the top 10 picks, the odds to win, Roger.
Yeah, I think it's hard to bet against Kyle or Troy just because they win so much. But I kind of like to go with the little to win a lot. So I would go with Loris Baz. After what he did yesterday, a long shot for me. World Superbike race winner, won MotoAmerica Superbike races, MotoGP rider. If I was looking for a long shot, I'm going with Loris Baz. What about you?
I agree with that, Loris. He's the long shot right now because it is his debut weekend here in Mission King of the Baggers, but you see what he's able to do around the world, not just in the MotoAmerica Championship, and certainly is impressive. Go out live now for the second session of qualifying. You see Kyle Wyman, the number 33, Harley-Davidson Road Glide. Start to a new season. He battled for the championship last year. He wanted it bad, but in the case of Troy Hertfoss, he was just able to be a little more consistent. But Kyle said it when we talked to him yesterday morning on the preview show, Roger, that everybody goes back to zero, and it's all about cleaning it up.
Yeah, and for Kyle, he's been in the fight the last 2 years, but just a couple little mistakes here or there has kind of cost him those points in the title. And we know Kyle, every weekend, he's going to be one of those guys, when you think about the King of the Bagger, going to be one of the guys at the front. That the win is going to come through Kyle. He won both races last year. It's going to be interesting to see in this session. We seen yesterday a lot of guys talking about tire issues and tire wear and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see now that the track's a little bit cleaner. Some people are able to make some changes. That's going to be improved today.
This is the number 38 bike that you're looking at on the screen there. That was Bradley Smith, the new teammate for the factory Harley-Davidson by DynoJet Factory Racing Organization. It'll be a 3-bike team as we go back out to the racetrack. You see the number 13, Corey West, second fastest right now on the time charts after leading and setting the pole time earlier today in Mission Super Hooligans.
Pole time and a new outright track record. So we'll see if he can kind of carry that good momentum here on the bagger yesterday. A little bit further down the list than he would have liked, but obviously he knows Daytona really well and really fast here, winning the hooligan race last year, and then also, track record. So we'll see if that momentum can carry over to the bagger.
Yeah, they had some issues yesterday, and he was way down the time chart in that first qualifying session, and his best lap came in the second lap of that 20-minute session. So for him, this is an opportunity to make up some ground, and he's already done that early on.
And when you miss time like that you had yesterday, it just makes these laps so much more important early on into these sessions, because you're on the back foot a little bit when you have those mistakes. So you see Corey out there early, going to try to put some laps up, and we'll see what his first flying lap can be.
We've already seen some track record pace in a couple of the other classes this morning, Roger. We're getting into the afternoon, closer to the afternoon now. The sun has been on the racetrack. The racetrack has been very good all morning. How close do you think we can get to breaking the track record here at Mission King of the Baggers?
I think they will. We were right there yesterday. It was only about a 10th off the outright track record. So I think today that they are going to break it, just because people are going to make changes overnight. The track's going to be better. We have less wind today. Even though the chicanes made the track a little bit slower, this class is always on the move. And every year it just gets so much harder and so much stronger, and the lap times are always falling. So I think we'll see outright record today.
That outright record that we're looking at is a 149.987. Troy Herfoss set it last year in the second qualifying session. So we'll see what they're able to do today. But let's get down to pit lane and Steve English.
Yeah, Tony Romo here from Dunlop. And Tony, we saw yesterday some issues for some of the riders in the baggers class. Conditions today an awful lot better, much warmer conditions now, and better track temperature.
Yeah, I mean, we did have some inconsistencies with some of the tire wear. I'm not really sure what's causing that. But we had a tried and true spec from 2023 that we bring along. So we changed everybody to that tire. We give them quantity 4, should be enough to finish the weekend. And everybody would be on the same tire. You can identify it'll be banded in green. So that kind of makes the levels the playing field for everyone. But again, there's not much we can do here. We're not really sure why we're seeing irregular wear on some of the specs. So we'll just have to table that and come back and analyze them and come back for next year.
Obviously, we're into a qualifying session and trying to set the fastest times for pole. But when you look at that as well with this tire, what's the chance of being able to get close to that record pace?
I think chances are pretty good, to be honest. I mean, it's the same compound. It's just a different profile. So it's the same compound they're racing yesterday, the R8. I think they always find some speed. I think there was still some speed to be had, and I think these guys will find it even with the small tire.
That's great. Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
I love that honesty from Dunlop, and that there were some inconsistencies, but right now we found something that works, but we are going to analyze it. They're continuing, they're going to do it, Roger, continue to analyze it and get better the next time that they come out.
And also it's hard when you come to a track that was a little bit dirty like yesterday, just really hard on tire wear. And we also talk about the speed of these baggers. I mean, there's only one series that we see Cam Peterson making a big save there, trying to get the power down there out of turn 5, was able to stay on it, but you can see how hard they're pushing right there.
Yes, that's the same Cam Peterson that we've seen race in MotoAmerica, ranks other categories for the last several years, making his move over into Mission King of the Baggers. I've heard some rumblings. We might see him on Supersport also late once we get to the point-paying rounds or the Supersport category.
And I talked to Cam yesterday about the bagger, and he said it's just so much fun to ride. He loves riding this thing and having a lot of fun, and just really excited to be on it. But he was just going on about how much fun he's having riding this bagger.
Just a couple moments ago, you saw that weather graphic that was up there at the top of the screen. Just a beautiful day, 70 degrees. These are perfect conditions for qualifying. As we now look at Tyler O'Hara. He was quick yesterday, but he wasn't able to be there right at the end when those numbers were being put down. But you saw another move out of that bike of Cam Peterson.
Yeah, the thing's really moving around. That's just not sure. Looks like he's really struggling with the grip. So for Cam, I'm sure he'll be trying to get that, settled out. But also for Cam coming from the Superbike to the bagger, it's going to be a little different riding style. And for Cam, he's going to have to figure that out and he will, but just have to maybe adjust the way he applies the throttle on corner exit.
You see the number 97, Rocco Landers, back for his second year hit in Mission King of the Baggers. Under the same team that he was with last year, was able to learn a lot over the course of the season with Revzilla and the whole Vance and Hines Harley-Davidson organization, and they just couldn't say enough good things about the progressions that he was able to make. Decided to bring him back for another year as we go back up front to Kyle Wyman, currently being shown in second place.
Talk about the track record. It looks like it is about to fall on this lap right here.
If he can hold on through the third sector, you can see that chip at the bottom of the screen, a 1:49.881 for Kyle Wyman. He has broken the outright track record, and unfortunately you saw the end of that lap, not able to do it again on the lap afterwards, but it doesn't matter. He crossed the stripe and was able to better the time that Troy Herfoss found last season. So that is the new mark to beat for the riders here at Mission King of the Baggers.
Yeah, and that lap, I think without the wind today as well, Kyle got in turn 1 so much faster, wasn't able to get it slowed down. What a tremendous lap. We knew Kyle was going to be motivated this year, missing out on the title again toward the end, and man, he's always setting the bar in this class.
Go back to Rocco Landers. When he was here last year, Roger, it wasn't the performance that he wanted, but it was all about getting the experience on the bike. He didn't have that quite yet. As you also see the number 76, Loris Baz. That was what he's going through right now. He had also never been, in the case of Loris, he had never been here to Daytona. So he's having to figure out this bagger platform as well as this racetrack.
Yeah, so he's going to have a lot better starting point going into the year. As you see Loris Baz there moves up into third, but for Rocco, such a young guy moving into the bagger class, struggled a little bit early on in the year. But man, did he figured it out toward the end. And if he can have that same pace that he had toward the end of the year where he was battling for wins and podiums every race weekend, Rocco could be a guy that can fight for this title.
Yeah, he was able to take home 2 victories in the championship last year right at the end of the season. So a lot of momentum to carry in. We go back to pit lane. You see Corey West off of the bike. Looks like he's taking his helmet and everything off as well, but still over 14 minutes left in this qualifying session.
Yeah, it looks like, I mentioned had some issues yesterday. It looks like maybe they might be fighting some problems again. It doesn't, kind of looks like maybe he's not going back out, but if they get the issues fixed, he might be able to get there.
This is the number 78 bike of Kyle Onsorg. He'll be disappointed not being able to finish off this session. I spoke with him a couple weeks ago, and he was really enthused about the start of this season and all of the changes and a new organization that he's working with this year. So he's going to miss out on these laps, but hopefully they'll be able to get it turned around. Let's get down to pit lane with Steve.
Corey West, an issue here in the qualifying session.
Yeah, I mean, we have all the luck on the hooligan and then no luck on the bagger. It seems like we might have broken exhaust or something. So bike was running real good, and then it kind of started sputtering down the front straightaway. So I don't think it's something that we can fix during this session, but yeah, better luck next time.
Obviously conditions very different to what we had yesterday, but we're seeing a big group of riders, 6-7 bikes together here. Obviously once you're in that group, you're able to set fast times.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to be out there with these guys right now. I have hardly any time on the bike right now, but it's just Daytona, you know, things don't always go your way, but hopefully these boys can get it fixed and the thing will be running good for the race later.
Yeah, racing this evening in the baggers class. Best of luck for it, Corey.
Thank you.
That is unfortunate. There is a little bit of time left, though, for that team to be able to get it turned around for later on today in the first race. Go back and see Rocco Landers now, but just a moment ago, Roger, he had a bit of a moment.
Yeah, it looks like he's trying to get a good run down into turn 6, but you start working on the run up the banking. You see the rear right there as he starts to get on the throttle, just comes around really before he can even get on the throttle. But you see Tyler O'Hara there right in front of you, and whenever you are trying to get on the throttle, and also there's a couple seams there, you can see the little black lines at a couple places where riders have to cross, and Rocco had to go through that, but Rocco still kind of did a good lap, but he's not where he wants to be. You know, the top 6 in qualifying goes to that 2-lap shootout mission challenge, and that's right now he's on the outside looking in with some pretty big names even behind him.
Yeah, it was funny over the course of the season as he got more and more comfortable last year. That was one of the points for Rocco, is that he wasn't able to make that top 6, and he was really disappointed with that, because it all comes down, it doesn't change anything for where you start. It's all about $5,000. It's about the bragging rights. It's about the extra 2 laps and the extra start and everything else. But to not be out there was really disappointing for him. So to be sitting in 7th right now, he's going to want to make some moves and use the last 11 minutes of this session to gain some pace. We go to Troy Herfoss, the number 1 plate, the defending champion from last season, currently sitting in 2nd, almost 0.3 of a second behind that new lap record pace of Kyle Wyman.
And Troy's thrown in some really good sectors. He just hasn't put all these sectors together yet. He's been really consistent, a lot of laps in the low 1-minute 50s. He's actually did 2 of them in a row, but it just seems like kind of having trouble putting all those sectors together. And if he can, he's showed the pace where he can get down in the 49s with Kyle.
The end of the first qualifying session yesterday, Troy was down in 5th place, but he was over a second behind the pace that Kyle Wyman had, so certainly has closed that gap up today, and that's really what you need when you consider how short these races are, how tight that competition is.
Yeah, and the big thing is just being able to be there in the beginning and not lose the draft of the leaders. But for Troy, he's starting so much further ahead here than last year, coming back for his 2nd time, so it's going to be a a big last almost 10 minutes of this session. See, like I said, he's really put some good sectors together, but he just hasn't had that one clean lap.
You see Cameron Peterson there still having those wiggles as he's a corner exit, but you go back to pit lane on the left-hand side of your screen and look at that front tire.
Yeah, that's definitely not what you want to see.
This is the bike of Loris Baz, currently sitting down in third, so some work to do there.
Wow.
What I wanted on the right-hand side of your screen, you're seeing Tyler O'Hara and Cameron Peterson both putting together their personal best laps. It's what the yellow indicates. Sector 1 is that first yellow chip. Sector 2, in the case of Tyler O'Hara, it's black. That means there was no improvement. For Cameron Peterson, there was an improvement, so that was his personal best, and now they're working at the third sector. We'll see what their lap time is. For Cameron Peterson, his best lap of the session, a 1:51.5. That moves himself up into the top 6.
Yeah, now that knocks Hayden Gillum out of the mission challenge. But that was a great lap for Cam. He was able to get out there with the factory Indian boys, and you know, for him moving up to a different class and to be able to get out and follow some of the other riders on the Indian that's got more experience and see how they ride the bike will be huge for him.
For Troy Herfoss, we just saw him go off the end of the track, but then look down at the back and then look over his shoulder. What is it that he was looking at?
Well, a lot of times when a rider knows that somebody's behind him, and I'm not saying this is the case, sometimes they act like they run off, you know, but you know, a lot of times usually though, it's the tire is moving around a lot, and you're just looking back at that tire and see what it looks like.
Down in pit lane, you see JD Beach there with Hayden Gillum. The two of these riders debriefing. We heard from JD Beach yesterday. He said in the next week or so there might be a big announcement that is ready that will indicate what his plans are going to be for this 2025 racing season. Remember, he's been with the Tytler Cycle BMW team for the last couple of years. That relationship has come to an end. So can't wait to hear where he's going to end up, but he was pretty excited about it, Roger.
Yeah, and for JD, still has a lot of stuff I think he wants to prove on the road racing side, and you know, I think he can do it. A couple years ago, he stepped in as a fill-in and won a Superbike race, and those things are so hard to win, and that just shows you the talent level that he has. I think if he can come back and, you know, if they can put something good around him where he can kind of get his confidence back and kind of restart from there.
See the work continuing on the front end of the bike of Loris Baz. Saw that tire issue that they had just a few moments ago. Just over 7 minutes remaining in this qualifying session, and if you look at that scoring pylon on the left-hand side of your screen, a lot of the riders right now are on pit lane.
It's going to be a big, an exciting last 6 minutes of this session. Now we see Troy pulling on pit lane as well. So we
already know that Kyle is off the racetrack. He had that issue earlier and had to pull off to the side. So Max Flinders, number 88, we haven't seen him able to turn laps yet this weekend. But while everybody else is on pit lane, Max gets to go out and see where he stacks up.
Yeah, this is a huge last couple minutes for him, Max, because he needs to put a lap time for the grid, and obviously no laps yesterday in qualifying and not so far today. So obviously they got some sort of bike issue. So we'll see what he can do. I know Max moved to the Harley this year, so he doesn't have a lot of laps on that. So he needs to get as many as he can.
It doesn't look as stable as some of the other Harleys as he's coming through. You can see some of that chatter. This is Troy Herfoss's bike on the left-hand side of your screen, one of the other Indian machines, and you can see that front tire, very similar issue to what we saw on Loris Baz's bike.
Yeah, that's going to be something that all these guys are going to want to look out and try to figure out how they can make that a little bit better.
Now the Mission King of the Baggers race, when we get to it this afternoon, is an 8-lap race, but on top of those 8 laps, there's also the sighting lap, and then there's the warm-up lap. Perspective as to how many laps these bikes have them here in the second qualifying session. Troy Herfoss, when he came in, he had completed 9 laps. Loris Baz had only done 6. So in terms of race distance, this is an issue that's going to have to be sorted out.
Yep, they're going to figure it out, and they will. They're getting all the riders are on the the same compound, so they're getting all the data that they can use. I mean, these baggers, it's so hard on the tires with the weight and the rider, and then not only the bikes, and then the fuel tanks being full for Dunlop, and the speeds that they're going. 180 something mile an hour on one of these bikes. I mean, it just puts so much stress on the tires. They're not built to do this.
Now, in the development of these bikes year after year, that was one of the points that Tony Romo from Dunlop was making in that interview with Steve just a few moments ago, as these bikes just continue to develop. But look at the left-hand side of your screen. Terry Vance right there was just inducted into the Drag Racing Hall of Fame last night, went up to Gainesville for that ceremony along with Byron Hines. And for him back this morning, he's even getting his hands dirty, holding on to those tires.
He'll do it all. And right now his riders are on the outside looking in for the Mission Challenge. So only 4 minutes left in this session, so they need to get out there really quick.
We heard from Corey West, the teammate to Jake Lewis, who you're seeing on the screen right now. And Corey, they had those problems, but Jake Lewis has also been struggling through these qualifying sessions, and he's currently down in 11th place.
Jake's a little bit quicker than he went yesterday, but definitely needs to find a little bit of a step, maybe get down into the low 51s. But man, you see that the Vance and Hines crew still on pit lane, trying to get these guys back out as quick as possible. That not going to get many laps. 3 minutes and 40 seconds left into the session, and you got to think that the outlap's going to be 2 minutes.
See on that Vance and Hines bike on the right-hand side of your screen, that green Dunlop band. That's what Tony Romo was talking about, the same spec for all of the Mission King of the Baggers competitors for the remainder of this race weekend. But that's how you identify that tire. And Loris Baz looked pretty patient, waiting for his chance to get back out there. With 3 minutes left, though, and the challenge coming up, Roger, do you shift your attention now?
I think if you feel like you have a really good lap time, like Loris does, somebody would have to pick up, well over a second to drop him. So I think that would be hard. Kyle's on a really good lap right now. He already broke the outright track record. I think it depends where you're at. If you're third, you're safe. But if you're Cam Peterson or somebody like that, you are not safe in that challenge. So you're going to try to head back out.
Yeah, this lap that Kyle Wyman's on already broken the track record, but take a look at that. He has gone better even through the first 2 sectors of this racetrack with his head down. We'll see if he can lower it even further. A 1:49.383 for Kyle Wyman, now over 7/10 of a second clear of the rest of the field, bettering the track record pace that he already set in the second qualifying session. This time, Roger, he was able to make the turn into turn 1.
Yeah, it just keeps lowering the track record, and Kyle is sending a message so far this weekend. His competitors are having a couple little issues with tires and stuff, and Kyle's letting them know. I mean, look right here, he's got 7/10 on Troy right now.
This is number 69, Hayden Gillum. We saw him on pit lane with JD Beach, and currently on the outside of that top 6 looking in. Currently is being shown in 7th, and as a past champion in this category for Hayden, this is not the way you want to start off the season.
No, it's not where you want to start, but this class is so competitive, Jamie. When you look down the list, you can go all the way down to 8th or 9th place, where you wouldn't be surprised if any of those guys won a race. And definitely don't want to be there at the bottom, but this class is getting so hard. So many new names every year. There's going to be weekends where there's going to be some big names that leave disappointed because the results weren't what they wanted.
Go back to that lap that Kyle Wyman was just able to put together. Remember yesterday in that first qualifying session, we heard almost the desperation in that interview that Kyle did on pit lane. They were struggling with the tire issues as well, and they have had to work through those and able to get through it overnight and come back out this morning and find that pace.
Yeah, it's been a great job by Kyle and his team. When we had Kyle on camera yesterday, one of the sessions, he looked concerned. Didn't have like the real positive look, but they went to work, him and his crew, and they were able to make some changes, and now he looks like he's going to be the guy to beat. Hayden Gillum there's right behind him. I'm sure he hopes Kyle's going to try to do another lap so he can get a toe behind him. He's only going to get one.
And for Hayden Gillum, he got that toe that he needed. He did the work through the first 2 sectors. You saw Kyle come by him and take him across the line. He was able to better his time at 150.9 for Hayden Gillum. So that puts him up into the 5th place. Puts Cameron Peterson now, who's sitting on pit lane, not taking advantage of these last couple of seconds of qualifying, and he's now on the outside looking in at 7th.
Yeah, for Cam, didn't get back out here toward the end. So you see Rispoli also going to try to get out there with the Harleys. Not much time remaining, but you see Cam headed out, but he is not going to get a lap. The checkered flag is out.
He crossed the stripe though. How close is it? Well, it doesn't matter because he's not up to speed quite yet. So he's going to be able to go out there and practice his start, but Cameron Peterson not going to be able to go for that $5,000 and get the 2 extra laps at race pace. That would have been a huge advantage for a rider who's making his debut in this category.
Yeah, you said exactly right. Just without the experience, the start down into turn 1, being in a big draft that's going to be in the race is just a big little bit of a disappointment for them, unfortunately. James Rispoli also on the outside. Bradley Smith moves up to 4th.
That was what pushed James Rispoli outside of that top 6, was on that last lap. Bradley Smith coming to the checkers was able to improve to a 150.6. So that moved him ahead of Tyler O'Hara and Hayden Gillum, who will end this session in that 6th position.
Look at Rocco though. Rocco's not done.
No, Rocco currently in 9th, and he went red through sector 1, meaning that's better than even what Kyle Wyman was able to do. If he can continue on with this pace, you see right now he's being shown below the pole time even, but there in the 2nd sector, he lost it.
Yeah, lost it there, but it looked like he was going to do a really good lap there, but kind of went away from him, but still put his head down. Maybe he can claw back a couple tenths and make it close.
James Rispoli on that last lap coming to the checkered, he moved himself back up into the top 6. That knocked Hayden Gillum out. See what Rocco does, a 151.662. for Rocco Landers. So it was an improvement. You saw it was his personal best time of this qualifying session, but for him, he's still down in 9th.
Yeah, disappointing there. Going to start both races this weekend there on the 3rd row, but what an exciting session. I mean, we've seen guys going from, 10th all the way up to 4th, and one guy, you might be 30 seconds left in that session. You look like you were safe to go into the mission challenge, and toward the end, it just shows you that you never know at this level that people will always dig. These riders are so good. They can always dig a little bit deeper when they need to. So those last minutes, these guys are able to figure it out.
And for Kyle Wyman, able to pull in between those 2 signboards there, practice his start before he brings it back to pit lane as the pole sitter for the first race weekend of the 2025 season for Mission King of the Baggers. We'll see what he can do in the Mission Challenge that will be following this session. Troy Herfoss on the front row, along with Loris Baz in his debut weekend.
That's a great qualifying for Loris, and also for Bradley Smith, his first weekend as well there, 4th.
James Rispoli able to improve right at the end when it mattered, being inside of the top 6. He is qualified 5th. Tyler O'Hara will be able to go for that $5,000 as well. But then you look at the rest of the riders, the ones who don't get these extra 2 laps and the ones that now have to shift their attention over to the race that will come this afternoon. Let's get down to pit lane with Steve.
Troy Herfoss down here in the pit box, and Troy, reigning champion in the Baggers, starting on the front row of the grid for the challenge race and then for the races this weekend.
Yeah, firstly, it's an honour to meet you. I listen to you on TV every week. It's great to be back at Daytona. Not the qualifying I would have hoped for, although I did qualify here 2nd year last year. Yeah, there was a lot going on this weekend. We've had a little tyre change overnight from Dunlop, and that's helped. Just trying to settle in. It's a long year, and we've come off a really good championship winning year, and just trying to reset and just build into another season.
Obviously, that different tyre from Dunlop for this session. What was the feeling with it?
Yeah, look, I've never seen the tyre before, and we had to sort of go and get into it, really. Yeah, it doesn't offer as much grip as I probably had yesterday, but really durable. Lap time obviously was able to come. We were able to build into it. Yeah, not much else to say, really. We're all on the same tyre. It's kind of nice to have sort of a controlled tyre for the weekend, and yeah, hopefully everyone stays safe out there.
Yeah, you put everyone out in the same. We've all got the same thing to play with. Just going into the race as well, obviously chasing that first win here at Daytona.
Yeah, look, last year I got a really good report card, having been my first time here, but as a racer, if you really look into how I rode the race last year, yeah, I left a lot to your imagination, basically. So, look, trying to work on a few things this year tactically, and there's a lot of guys going fast. So, yeah, definitely everyone wants to win a Daytona, right? Yeah, it's such a fun place to be at, but it is a bit of a cycling race kind of thing. You got to position yourself well, and you can't buy experience, and you can't just be handed experience. So I'm just trying to learn as fast as possible.
Good luck for the weekend.
Thank you.
I love the way he put that, Roger. You can't buy experience and you can't be given experience. And you think about some of the new names that are in this category for this season, working through that right now and gaining that experience. That's a tall order.
It's hard, and as he said, the only way to gain that is going through it. And for him, for Troy, he knows what it's like for those guys that are moving to the class. But Troy always just seems like he takes a really smart, methodical approach. And so right now I think he qualified second. He probably looked at the sectors and knows that if he put it together, he can go a little bit quicker. Also, the draft as well can play a huge part, but he's got the experience now, and as he said, that's the hardest part is gaining that experience, because there's only one way to get it.
Daytona is not as physical of a racetrack as some of the other ones that we go to, but when you think about the weight of these bagger bikes and what these riders have to do, not just for the qualifying session, the laps that they just put in, but the ones that are in the top 6 that are getting ready now to go out for this challenge race, and then getting ready for the first race of the championship season later on this afternoon. It takes a lot of strength to be able to control these.
It takes a lot of strength, and also the wind. You don't really think about it, but your head and your neck gets so sore here from the wind. But you just think about the guys wrestling these baggers up the banking and through the chicane as fast as they get through there. It's not easy.
Let's get back down to Steve.
I'm a pole sitter here in the baggers class, and that was some lap at the end.
Thanks. Yeah, we were able to put another tire in there and got some clean air. So I kind of thought we could do something on our own. I was getting a little bit nervous. The guys were getting a little bit close, but luckily I had just a little bit more I could kind of pull out of it. And bike's working amazing. Harley-Davidson factory racing by DynoJet. They've done an incredible job all weekend. We've been changing quite a few things, and yeah, I'm really feeling comfortable.
We've obviously got the 2-lap dash for the cash race, but the afternoon's where the points are at.
Yeah, that's where we're focused. We want to score points, and yeah, let's see if we can learn something in these 2 laps. That's kind of the goal for me, try to learn something that I can take into the afternoon.
Obviously, speaking to Troy as well, he was talking about the change of the tires for this weekend after the problems yesterday, but what was your feeling with it?
Yeah, the grip's pretty good. I think it's always a challenge. These bikes are so heavy, we're going so fast now. To come up with a tire that can withstand what we're asking of it is a pretty tall order. So this is a proven tire that we did run a few years ago. It's a different size, so it's a little bit of an adjustment. Changes the gearing a little bit, so we had to make sure we nailed that this morning. But I think we're all pretty comfortable on it at this point, and I'm not really seeing any major issues, so we should be able to race on it.
Wyman, our pole sitter for the season opener.
Great to see the rejuvenated mood of Kyle Wyman as he now gets ready for the Mission Foods, the King of the Baggers Challenge. We will be back for this 2-lap shootout right after this.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Darwin Yeager, Trade Marketing Manager for Motul USA. So Motul is a world-class French company specializing in the production, distribution of high-quality engine lubricants across 120 countries. We're involved with MotoAmerica. This is our 3rd year now because it's our heritage. We are known as a racing brand. That's what kind of the brand's been built on. And to be able to have the platform of a MotoAmerica racing series, especially with the King of the Baggers, it allows us to kind of test our products. It's a proving ground. Basically, if it's going to work for these guys at the high engine temps, going 180 miles an hour, then it's going to work for just about anybody.
My name's Corey West. I ride for Team Salomon Race Development on the number 13 Harley Davidson. These bikes were not designed to do what we're doing. We're going out there, we're ragging the hell out of them. I mean, I'm beating that thing up, banging gears. I mean, they have quick shifters on them now. I don't think any Harley was designed for that. We're not going easy on these things. And having Motul in those bikes just gives me the confidence that these things aren't gonna just scatter
when I go grabbing one too many downshifts on accident or something. You know, we're pushing these things really hard, and when you have good quality chemicals and lubricants inside the motor, everything's happy.
For more information or any technical details that you may be seeking on the Motul product line, make sure to go to motul.com, and it'll feature our entire motorcycle range as well as our automotive range as well.
Come learn all about Counteract.
Introducing Spectro Performance Oil's heavy-duty product line. Engineered not just for performance, but for endurance. Spectro offers leading engine, transmission, and brake fluid products, which are proudly made in the USA since 1966. Performance, reliability, quality, and tradition. Because every ride should feel as smooth as the first. Spectro Performance Oils.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway for the Mission King of the Baggers Challenge race. Now, this will be a 2-lap race shootout. We go through the normal starting procedures, so the bikes will eventually leave pit lane for their sighting lap. Roger, pull up to their grid position. They'll do the warm-up lap. They will then get back into their top 6 grid positions for what will be the 2-lap dash for cash, that $5,000 check presented by Mission Foods each and every weekend. Really, though, for the riders, it's about bragging rights.
It's about bragging rights and $5,000, and it's going to be for these guys also to get extra 2 laps. And you know, it's Bradley Smith, the guy that doesn't have a lot of experience. This is going to be a huge 2 laps for him to be able to get out there and race with those guys. But it's always one of the best races of the weekend because there's no points on the line. Only thing up is for $5,000.
We just saw Kyle Wyman during that second qualifying session blister the track record, find all of the pace. Everybody's going to be chasing him here in the challenge as well as in the 2 races that we have here this weekend. If you're Kyle Wyman, how hard do you push it knowing what you've already been able to find?
Well, I think you just try to make a break if you can early on, get a good start. But if you get stuck in a battle, you know, on that last lap, and just don't put yourself in a bad spot. You know, it's either win or nothing, I think, for Kyle. If he can't go for the win, then just kind of take it easy. And we've seen him do that before.
Looking at timing and scoring right now, and it looks like everyone is starting to find their way around the racetrack. So Roger, while they get to their positions, why don't you take us around a lap of Daytona?
Yeah, and it's a difficult track. It's like no other, you know, down into turn 1 off the banking. You'll see quite the transition there, and then we get through the infield part of the track, the first horseshoe, turn 3, really fast. Kink into 4, turn 5, and then turn 6. Such an important corner because it starts that run around the banking from 7 to 8. Turn 9, the chicane, a little bit different this year, a little slower on corner entry. We seen the race 2 last year decided right there into that chicane, that run out of turn 10 through 11, through 12, down the tri-oval.
Here with the Mission Challenge, we're going to see how that new chicane races for the first time with 2 wheels. We've seen it through practice and then the qualifying sessions as well, and track records have been able to be broken even though the track itself has been set up to slow them down just a little bit. We'll see how they can get through there now at race pace. Let's take a look at the grid. Top 6 from the 2 qualifying sessions. We already talked about pole sitter Kyle Wyman, but they're alongside him Troy Herfoss and Laura Spaz.
And we got Bradley Smith, James Rispoli, and Tyler O'Hare. I mentioned you know, this is huge for Bradley Smith, his first race on the bagger, but the same for Loris Spaz. This is going to be his first start going down into turn 1 and racing with all these guys.
It's also going to be the first time that Loris is back out there after that pit stop that he made to get a new front tire put on. So we'll see what they're able, and with the setup of the bike and everything that they're pushing onto those Dunlops, what they're able to do here for this 2-lap race. Good opportunity to thank all of the corner workers that are around this 3.5-mile racetrack. We definitely couldn't have these racing weekends without them. All volunteers out there waving the flags and making sure that everybody stays safe, and all the calls are made in to race control. Enjoying beautiful weather though. It's a great way to watch some racing. 70 degrees right now. It's perfect ambient temperature. Humidity has even dropped to below 50%. So really just a great afternoon for racing.
Beautiful day, and the big thing is the wind. Talked about that a lot yesterday. It's a lot less windy today, only 6 miles an hour. So as you said, it is perfect race conditions for these guys.
If you watch a lot of MotoAmerica racing, I know at most of the tracks that we go to, the grid is set out on the front straightaway by the start-finish line. But here at Daytona, with the high banks, the grids are on pit lane.
Yeah, you just wouldn't be able to touch, especially somebody like me.
Really puts into perspective how steep that incline is.
Look at Rispoli there, 43. See, he's kind of got his bike cocked there toward the inside. He's kind of got he knows where he wants to go. He wants to get kind of down on that inside, down into turn 1.
Lights are out, and we are going for the 2025 season. It is the first Mission Challenge of the year. Kyle Wyman, a tremendous start.
Great start for Kyle, a bad start for Loris Baz. He goes from the front row to the back of this 6-rider pack, and we'll see what Kyle can do right there in the lead. Troy Herfoss also in deep into turn 3, and James Rispoli, the top 3 already looks like they're starting to get a couple bike links on the rest of the pack.
We asked the question, how hard do you push it if you're the pole sitter? Well, in the case of Troy Herfoss, started on the front row, but he also had those issues. He needs to push it.
He needs to push it, and he also wants to see where Kyle's quicker than him. Kyle has been a little bit quicker in the qualifying session, so this is a great opportunity for him to get out there and see what he can do different.
Such a great point. During practice and qualifying, these riders don't let anybody get this close to them, and while this challenge doesn't pay any points, it does give away some of the riders' secrets and where they're able to make up that time. So we saw this last year. Troy Herfoss is a great student, and he was able to learn a lot from this.
Yeah, it looks like James Rispoli is going to be able to maybe make the move on Troy. Just got the run, but now it looks like James is going to be on the inside into the chicane. Troy lets off the brakes, though, as they get in where the chicane's a little bit different, a little bit slower this year, but these guys still get through there so fast.
What a difference a year makes for James Rispoli. Last year was his first year with this factory team, and he had so much to learn just in terms of how that team sets up the bike and then trying to get comfortable on a bike that wasn't built around him. But now they've made all of those changes, and he's a lot racier than what he was last season.
Yeah, he struggled, and it was a confusing year for him, and but now it looks like he's made a huge jump. This challenge is so short. We're already just down to 1 lap to go.
White flag waving. Kyle Wyman continues to lead up front, but Troy Herfoss is just right there.
Troy got sucked in a little bit into turn 1 there, I think, because of the draft. And you can see he almost got into the back of Kyle, ran a little bit wide. Now he's lost the spot.
You can see when James Rispoli on that 43, when he made that move around him, it upset the front end of that bike a little bit.
You can see James was just trying to get such a good run out of turn 1. You can see Kyle starting to pull away, and they cannot let him get much further out or he will break the draft.
Loris Baz, that started on the front row, you mentioned it, had that horrible start, moved him all the way to the back. He's been able to claw himself back up into the 4th position, but nowhere near this front group of 3.
Looks like James and Troy's closed the gap down to Kyle as they head up on the banking, and maybe the draft will be able. Kyle, look at the run he gets. He gets such a good run going on to the bank, and you see James trying to get a good run as well, but the bike is moving around. See the little couple bike links Kyle's able to pull out.
Huge gap now for Kyle Wyman as He looks to come around to the checkers. Is he going to be able to hold on to it? James Rispoli, is he going to be able to get around Troy Herfoss and make it a Harley-Davidson 1-2?
Troy got into chicane deep, made up a ton of ground on corner entry, but when they come out of the chicane, Kyle is going to be able to pull away, going to make more, not rushing the first part of it.
You can really see where Kyle's able to stretch the legs. It's able to extend that gap. James Rispoli, though, he every time they're at corner exit, he is able to get around him. And to the line, it will be Kyle Wyman with the first Mission Challenge win of the year, and his teammate James Rispoli using the draft, getting around Troy Herfoss, making it a 1-2.
Yeah, those two guys, James and Troy, did a great job there after their mistakes in the turn one to close the gap. But what about the Factory Harley team, able to come out here in first and second, the first Mission Challenge of the year?
And James Rispoli on that lap with that draft was able to do a 1:49.816. That's a great lap time for James as well.
Fastest lap James did all weekend, fastest lap he's ever had here at Daytona on the bagger. And you mentioned it during the race, how he looks totally different this year, and it looks like he just has so much more confidence in the bike.
Talk about confidence. See that wheelie from the number 33, Kyle Wyman, getting to start the season off as the pole sitter for the first two races, a new track record for himself, and also now a $5,000 check.
I think most importantly for Kyle as well, he knows that, you know, he's the guy that's going to set the pace for these races. I mean, everybody's chasing Kyle.
Championship, a little different structure this year also, not as many races as what we saw last season. So each race, those points are going to be just a little bit more important as we kick off this 2025 season. Here's a look at the results, how they all ended after those two laps. Of course, our winner, Kyle Wyman, and then James Rispoli right there behind him.
Yeah, Troy Herfoss. Loris Baz able to make a couple spots after a bad start. Bradley Smith fifth. Tyler O'Hare had an issue. I don't think completed the last lap, ending up sixth.
Great two-lap run there for the top six. A sign of things to come. We saw how close it was between all of those racers. Just a reminder, you can still place your bets for Baggers race number 1. These are the odds to win. These have not changed after the qualifying session, but there's a look. Loris Baz made that top 6, finished in the top 4. Look at that long shot.
Long shot. Also, after that race, I'm kind of looking at James Rispoli there. You know, but Kyle looks super strong, but James there getting a little more value.
These odds will be updated after the first race of the weekend that will be later on this afternoon before we get to the second race that will happen tomorrow after the Daytona 200. There's a look at who you can place on, but let's watch as Kyle Wyman now comes down pit lane. He will pull over into victory lane where he will be able to celebrate this challenge win and collect that check. You see, look at the huge organization. Everybody there to greet him. Round of applause. Job well done.
Drop it up, boy. Drop it. Enjoy that.
That's how we started off.
That's how we started.
I didn't learn what I needed to learn,
I know.
but I got $5 grand.
I was a little mad at you for that. Next time?
I was like, there's no way on a used tire that I'm getting away.
Yeah, but get to find out if you pull out of the chicken.
Some good insight there. Used tire, and for Kyle Wyman, wasn't able to learn what he wanted, but Roger, at the end of the day, he still gets the check.
Yeah, and also it's got to be a good feeling to go out there on a used tire like that and be able to do a 40 or, you know, low 50.0 and win. I don't think he was expecting the win. I think he was a little surprised. They were doing some testing for the race, and he's so strong this weekend, even doing all that, he's able to win the Mission Challenge.
It's a good look at the victory area. Roger, you and I will be down there later on this afternoon for the Pit Crew Challenge. That's coming up at 4:15. We still have some racing to do before we get to that point this afternoon. And right now, it's time to celebrate. Let's get down to Steve English.
Yeah, Jamie, just down here in victory lane and waiting for Kyle to come over. But great race here to kick off the start of the season, and Kyle just chatting to his team, and we'll be able to hear from him in just a moment. obviously enough in this race we were able to see Kyle lead from the front, but good last lap battle and no mistakes from Kyle and able to get to the flag and just about to get his check now from Richard Chu for $5,000 from Mission Foods as the winner of the challenge race. And Kyle, obviously enough in a race like this, we were able to see that last lap battle, but no mistakes from you on the start of the lap and just opened a small gap to the two riders chasing you down.
Yeah, I got a good start, so I was like, let's see what we have. We carried the tire over from the qualifying, so I wasn't really expecting to have a whole lot to fight with. So that was really encouraging that nobody came by me on that back straightaway, and I just tried to put another clean lap together. And yeah, I look back over my shoulder. This Krapovich exhaust is sounding so good. I could barely hear the guys behind me. So shout out to them and. Yeah, 1-2 for the team. It's a pretty good start for us.
Yeah, it's a great start, and I'm not going to lie, I couldn't hear my own thoughts out there, but congratulations, Kyle, a great way to start the season. And obviously from Richard Chu, now able to take your check for $5,000 as the winner of the challenge race.
Thank you, Steve. Great to see Kyle able to hoist up that $5,000 check. It's a great way to start off the season for any of the riders. Roger, let's take a look at the highlights from this 2-lap shootout.
Yeah, what a quick race. Only 2 laps here at Daytona. Kyle Wyman there qualifying on pole with the new outright track record. Great start for him. Troy Herfoss also. See Loris Baz didn't get a very good start, but from the early on, the top 3 guys there making a break. Troy Herfoss got sucked into turn 1 a little deep, almost got into the back of Kyle. See James and Troy, both those 2 guys trying to put themselves in the right spot last lap out of the chicane. But Kyle was just too strong today. He was able to make the move early on, make the break, didn't let anybody get in his draft.
Saw a bit of a handshake there between Troy Herfoss and James Rispoli at the end. Great sportsmanship.
Hello and welcome to Daytona International Speedway. A very breezy and cool morning here. I'm Jason Pritmore, and I'm here to give you some info on how you can play to win in MotoAmerica and have a chance to be part of the action with your favorite rider. Now, joining us today to assist us